Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the City of Palm Coast City Council Business Meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 16th, 2026. It's approximately 9:01 a.m. in the morning. We're in the John Netz Community Wing of City Hall. If you could please, I call this meeting to order. If you could please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and a short moment of silence. And please, if you have a device, silence it at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Cook, if you could call the roll, please.
Mayor Norris.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Present.
Councilmember Gambaro.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to begin today's proceedings with the proclamations and presentations. The first proclamation is the Art Dyke proclamation. Ms. Netz, Mrs. Netz, are you going to come up to receive the proclamation? And Ms. Dyke? We got Preston here, too. If you could come up here with me, please. How are you ladies doing? City Manager, if you could please read the proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Proclamation, Art Dyke. Whereas Art Dyke dedicated more than 2 decades to preserving and documenting the history of Palm Coast, ensuring that the stories, photographs, milestones, and memories of our community will be preserved for future generations. And whereas, as the City of Palm Coast's first official historian, and through his service with the Palm Coast Historical Society, Art became a trusted steward of our community's history and a passionate advocate for historical preservation. And whereas, through his research, publications, presentations, and outreach, Art helped generations of residents better understand the people, events, and vision that shaped Palm Coast into the city it is today. And whereas, Art authored 2 books chronicling Palm Coast history and was recognized with the Mayor's Citizen of the Year Award in 2018 for his extraordinary service to the community. And whereas, beyond his many accomplishments, Art will be remembered for his kindness, dedication, sense of humor, and genuine love for his family, friends, and the Palm Coast community. And whereas, Art Dyke passed away on May 18, 2026, leaving behind a lasting legacy that will continue to educate, inspire, and connect future generations to Palm Coast's rich history. Now, therefore, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, do hereby honor and celebrate the life, service, and enduring legacy of Art Dyke, the city's first historian, whose dedication ensured that the story of our community will never be forgotten. Be it further proclaimed that the City Council encourages residents to reflect upon and celebrate Art's life and contributions as family, friends, and community members gather for his celebration of life on June 27, 2026. Signed this 16th day of June, 2026, Michael Norris, Mayor.
Preston, Ms. Netz, Ms. Dyke, if you would like to say something, please. Okay. What about you, Mrs. Netz? Preston? Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Dyke, Mrs. Dyke, just so everybody can hear, Mrs. Dyke said it was a labor of love for Art. And we are truly thankful for him being a resident of Palm Coast and all the work that he did to preserve our history within our city. So thank you, and I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone from the council have any comments? Any comments?
Just one since I was here in 1999 when we first became a city. Art Dyke was here a long time before that, and that's why he was so valuable in creating the background for creating Palm Coast and then carrying it on till till we have now great historical members of the area. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I think I have one of his books at home. Someone gave me, as soon as I was elected, they gave me a copy of one of his books. So thank you, Mrs. Dyke. We're going to move on to our next proclamation. Mr. Martin, you're going to accept this one. It's National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. And Mike will educate you on mosquito control after we do the proclamation. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Proclamation, National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. Whereas mosquito-borne diseases, including malaria, dengue, yellow fever, West Nile virus, Zika virus, and other forms of arboviral encephalitis have historically been a source of human and animal suffering, illness, and death in the United States and worldwide. And whereas an excessive number of mosquitoes diminish our enjoyment of the outdoors, public parks, and playgrounds, hinders outdoor work, decreases livestock productivity, and reduces property values. And whereas residents can assist in the prevention of mosquito breeding areas by eliminating sources of standing water, such as clearing gutters of debris, refreshing pet water bowls regularly, and scheduling collection for any unused tires. And whereas it is important to encourage effective and environmentally safe mosquito control activities, and it is fitting to facilitate communication and education among the East Flagler Mosquito Control District's professionals to improve the effectiveness of mosquito control operations in Palm Coast. And whereas the East Flagler Mosquito Control District works with multiple agencies and government organizations to raise public awareness to prevent the spread of malaria, dengue, West Nile virus, Zika, and other mosquito-borne viruses, and encourage the elimination of mosquito breeding habitats in residential areas. And whereas it is important for individuals and organizations to work with the East Flagler Mosquito Control District to help decrease the effects of mosquito-borne illnesses. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that June 21st to the 27th, 2026 be officially designated as National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. Signed this 16th day of June, 2026, Michael Norris, Mayor.
Let's get a picture and then we'll let you talk a little bit. I appreciate it.
Please excuse my back.
No worries.
Next year, it'll be our 75th anniversary. The Mosquito Control District was set up in 1952, so we're 74 years, and we hope 75 years. Our mission is to protect you, to keep you safe, to keep mosquito diseases out of the district, out of Flagler County, and we have been 100% successful in doing it. However, and I hate to get political, but it's necessary, I want to say something about this charter amendment that will eliminate property taxes. For the most part, 98% of our revenue comes from property taxes. We do not have any other sources of revenue because that's what these statutes say. If they go ahead and reduce property taxes by 26%, we are going to have an extremely hard time continuing to protect you. So I ask you to think before you vote. Do you understand how important mosquito control is? This isn't just about keeping you comfortable when you go outside. This is about protecting you from mosquito-borne diseases. Right now in Puerto Rico, there are 300,000 new cases of Oropouche virus. There were 3 million cases in Brazil. It's spreading, it's coming this way. In order for us to continue to protect you, we need to have the budget to do so. So I'm asking you to please think before you vote. Understand that if they cut property taxes by 26%, which is what our Representative Sam Greco told me last week, we are going to not be able to provide you with the services that we have been providing you. And while I can't say that it's going to increase your risk of mosquito diseases or by how much it will, it is certainly going to impact our efforts to keep you safe. So I appreciate all the support you've given us. We're having an open house on June 26th. You can go on flaglermosquito.gov. That's one word, Flagler Mosquito. You can sign up. We're asking you to take reservations. We're proud of what we do. We want you to see what we do and understand how little we charge you, because the amount of money that we charge you every year is about 1/10 of the money you pay to a private pest control to keep your yard mosquito-free, if they could do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any follow-ups from the council? Anyone?
I just want to thank the Mosquito District for all the work that you do. And Mike, I know you're very passionate, and I really appreciate your continued education on this subject. Thank you.
Where'd you go, Mike? You still out there? Real quick, how many tires did they collect?
1,441.
Yep,
And some of them actually had mosquito larvae living inside them.
good job.
19.8 tons.
19.8
And we
tons.
got a grant from the EPA to do it, so it's not costing taxpayers anything.
Thank you, sir. Anything else for the council? Okay, we're moving on to our next proclamation. July 2026 is Parks and Recreation Month, and we're going to have some good news after this one here.
I was going to say,
Mr.
though,
Hurst and his crew, come on up.
wasn't the original name for this area Mosquito County in the state of Florida? Yeah.
Really?
Because it's swamp.
Well, you
Was
got Mosquito Lagoon.
Northeast Florida was Mosquito County.
Let's get our Parks and Rec on. Okay, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Proclamation Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas since 1985, the month of July has been nationally celebrated as Parks and Recreation Month across the United States, and whereas this celebration, led by the National Recreation and Parks Association, provides an opportunity to recognize the many ways parks and recreation enhance quality of life, strengthen communities, and enrich the lives of residents and visitors alike. And whereas Palm Coast Parks and Recreation, in partnership with the National Recreation and Parks Association, is celebrating Parks and Recreation Month 2026 through the theme, The Power of, highlighting the essential role parks and recreation play in strengthening connections, inspiring play, fostering community, promoting well-being, encouraging belonging, and providing access to nature, all of which enriches lives and create vibrant, welcoming communities. And whereas Palm Coast Parks and Recreation offers a variety of amenities, community events, and programs including summer camps, swim lessons, 13 parks and miles of trails, adult fitness classes, social groups, and whereas during Parks and Recreation Month, Palm Coast Parks and Recreation encourages everyone to come together and experience the sense of community that grows through parks, recreation, and time spent enjoying our wonderful city. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that July 2026 be officially designated Parks and Recreation Month, and request that Parks and Recreation Month, all citizens explore, connect, and play in Palm Coast by taking part in their favorite sports, visiting the outdoors, and spending time with family and friends. Signed the 16th day of June, 2026, Michael Norris, Mayor.
Shorter than the person in front of you. Mr. Hurst, the podium is yours.
You guys are good. Good morning, Mayor and City Council. James Hurst, Director of Parks and Recreation. First, I'd like to thank you for this proclamation. It's a great proclamation for Parks and Recreation. Also want to thank our residents for their continued support for our Parks and Recreation, hitting the parks, hitting the trails, attending our programs. I want to thank our new PRAB members, Miss Agnes and Phil. We're doing an awesome job here at PRAB. We're only 2 meetings in, and we're making some headway with that. And then lastly, I just want to thank you guys, our staff. Last few years, I've had the privilege of leading you guys. You're an awesome team. You're a hardworking team. Every day, your commitment to the community just amazes me. And your ability to provide for the community amazes me as well. So with that, we have many programs throughout July. But I just wanted to go through some key events that are coming up. So July 4th is our United Flag with 4th fireworks. July 18th is Pedal in the Park. July 25th, we have our Historical Society speaker series. And then on July 30th, we have Beats and Eats, which is the band Half Step Down. So I invite everyone to come to these events. If you need more information, please see the city website. If you want to sign up for any of the events or any of our programs, please visit parksandrec.fun. Thank you for the proclamation.
Thank you, sir.
And I think Miss Agnes has something to say as well.
And down. Good morning, everyone, and thank you. As part of the advisory board, and it's a number of us that are here today, we are especially proud to become a part of a team that helps guide the planning and the development of these opportunities. As Parks continues to grow here in Palm Coast, so does the needs for parks, facilities, programs, services that meet the needs of our residents. Being involved in this process is both a privilege and a responsibility that we value. We are looking forward to the celebration of National Parks and Recreation Month, while we also celebrate 250 years as a nation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any follow-ups by the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Parks and Rec staff for everything that you guys do. James mentioned a lot of it, but there's so many different things that you guys do, right? We have our neighborhood parks and trails. We have adult and senior programming. We have aquatics, the golf course, the racket center. So there's just a myriad of things. The trails. So there's a myriad of things that you guys do, and it truly makes our community better for it. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Vice Mayor?
Yes, I just want to thank you all for your passion and your hard work, not just in the work that you do, but in the community events that you do as well. It's really important. I know our community puts a very high value on this department, and we do as well. So thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Sullivan?
Yeah, just that Parks and Rec is part of what makes Palm Coast Palm Coast. You all do a great job. Thank you very much.
Councilman Gambaro?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say thank you to our new advisory board members for stepping up and help give us a different perspective as we try to plan the future of our parks going forward into the future. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'll follow up. We're going to have a good news story in a little bit later on in our meeting. But thank you all so much. Parks and Rec it's a big deal here in our city. Thank you guys so much. Okay, next we're going to move into item D4, presentation, Flagler County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Staley, thank you for coming out.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and staff that you have here. I'm asking my Chief of Staff just to hand you something out that you can enjoy in your spare time. I'm Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley. I'm pleased to be here today to present the Sheriff's Office update and your budget request. As you know, the Flagler County Sheriff's Office provides your law enforcement services. We're the only full-service law enforcement agency in the county. We do support the other two smaller police departments when necessary. And I won't go into every little detail here to save, be aware of your time. But we also are required by law to run the Sheriff Perry Hall inmate detention facility and also provide services to the court and the judges through our bailiffs, warrants, civil, and those kind of things. We're just under 400 full-time employees. If you add the volunteers in there, we're a little over 450. You can be proud that your law enforcement agency is a 5-diamond accredited agency. Let me put that in perspective. There's about a little over 19,000 law enforcement agencies in this country. The majority do not even have one accreditation. In Florida, there's almost 500 law enforcement agencies between city and county, and only about a third of them are actually accredited with one. So you have an agency that serves you that's accredited 5. Law enforcement's accredited, detention's accredited, the correctional medical side is accredited, the communications center is accredited, and we hold a National Institute of Ethics accreditation. You can see from 2025, and you can see a bigger picture in the annual report. We were pretty busy last year, 27,000 traffic stops, 126,000 calls for service. We took 151 kids shopping, and many of you helped support that for Christmas, so thank you for that. And we made a little over 3,000 arrests. Calls for service are climbing as growth comes, and I was looking back at when I was elected and where the population is today. Since I was elected in 2016, took office in January 2017, 45,000 new residents have arrived. And while crime is down, and I'm going to talk about that, calls still have to be handled that don't count as crime. And I'll give you 2 examples just on the way in here this morning. Elderly gentleman driver that was having a medical episode. We probably saved him from getting in a crash or hurting or killing himself or somebody else. And that took us using our real-time crime center and the residents that called in to find him and get him pulled over and stopped. That's not a crime. So those things, that gets into calls for service. So just because crime is down doesn't mean calls for service also go down. And somebody has to answer those. Baker Acts continue to climb. That's the mental health aspect of our community. And for example, over the weekend, we had a stand your ground shooting with a man that forced his way inside a resident's home. Appears, resident did exactly what they should have done. And, but that tied up 5 cars for the initial response, and then later down to 3 cars plus detectives after that to hold that crime scene and do those kind of things. So even though that is counted as a crime, it shows you that one crime does not translate into one deputy. Many times it's multiple deputies, depending on the incident and for the safety of the deputy. So as you can see, the calls are increasing. But fortunately, the crime is going down despite fast growth. Now you'll see 2 charts up there. One is pre-2024. The FBI and the National Crime Reporting Database changed how we have to report starting in 2024. But even so, crime is still down. And I'm pleased to tell you that under the new counting requirements, which is called NIBRS, National Incident-Based Reporting System, in 2024, the first year of the new system, there were 2,764 reportable offenses to the FBI. In 2025, that dropped by over 500 to 2,241, so it's going in the right direction. And through April of this year, we've had 699. So if that trend continues, unfortunately, we'll see another crime reduction at the end of this year. You have done your annual or semi-annual, I think, survey, or biannual, I should say. And the community is pretty pleased with the services received from the Sheriff's Office. There's always room for improvement. So we'll probably never get 100% on all these categories, but that should be our goal, and that's what I tell my people is that, well, this is good, but we can do better. And so from the last time you did your annual survey to the one that came out this year, I think you can be fairly happy with the level of public safety that you're providing. This is a double-edged sword because this is why people want to move here. 8 best Florida cities to retire in Florida, and Palm Coast was number 1 in this category in this report. Overall crime grade for Flagler County as an A, 39th safest county in the United States, not just Florida there. And these are not our studies. These are studies that other people have done. And you see in 15 safest cities in Florida, Palm Coast ranked second, only behind the Villages in north central Florida. Total crashes. Well, with congestion and more people comes more crashes, and people get frustrated because they're now having to wait for traffic lights, multiple cycles to get through. And so traffic crashes did increase over 2024. Fortunately, the fatalities did go down. Our jail facility is running about 210, 220 at night. It has dipped below 200 a few times. The peak since I've been sheriff was 330 inmates a night. So it's, considering the growth that we have and that we're making the arrests, I think the programs in the jail are helping stop the recidivism. As I mentioned, we are required to run detention. We have lots of partnerships that make the facility an opportunity for inmates to turn their lives around and become productive citizens rather than reoffend. And we've had great success there. In fact, you probably just read something in the paper this week or online about our partnership with Flagler Humane Society and the urgent need that they had for puppies. So we have cats in the ladies' side of the jail, and we have dogs now in the men's side of the jail. And you know, one of the unintended consequences of doing that is that the tone in the jail and the happiness, if you will, I don't know how happy you can be in a jail, but has really improved since we implemented having animals in there that inmates have to care for. And a lot of people say, well, why do you have that? Well, most of our inmates did not have a strong parental guide. Sometimes they followed the guidance of their father who was in prison or mother. And so we know it can be cyclic. And so when we have these kittens that they're having to foster and the puppies, it forces them to learn behaviors on how to be a caring adult and responsible adult. That hopefully when they leave the jail, they'll take that with their kids and their family. So every patrol car that you see driving around, all the graphics have been designed, implemented, and printed and attached by an inmate. It's one of our programs. I won't go through all these, but there's lots of programs in the jail. Now you're not paying, your residents are paying that through the countywide ad valorem, but this is how we drive down crime, not just because we can be a proactive agency and not a reactive agency, but also the programs that we have in the jail, which is an award-winning jail. I believe in getting every tax dollar that's been paid somewhere, whether it's federal or at the state level, back to our community. So in 2026, right now, we have $3.3 million in active grants. This is bringing money that's going to go somewhere, and it might as well come to this community. And hopefully in another week or so, I'll be able to announce almost a $4.5 million grant.
Did you get that FDLE one this year? They sent me a survey or something. Did you get any money from them?
Well, not directly from FDLE, but we do have a lot of state grants, and a lot of those do get reported through FDLE as they are the manager of the grant, and so that's probably why you got the survey, Break down the average cost of a new deputy. If you include everything, and trust me, the deputies are not making $166,000. I'm sure they wish they were. But that's the total cost. It's not cheap. Law enforcement isn't cheap. And, you know, in comparison, St. Johns County is at $206,000. This is the budget breakdown. You can see the law enforcement side is the largest. I really want to highlight on this one because everybody talks about how much law enforcement costs. Well, I will tell you this, that you have one of the best value in the area. Bunnell Police Department per capita in the city of Bunnell for their police department is $628 per capita. Flagler Beach is $557. And on the law enforcement side, the sheriff's office is $397. So, and we're the only full-service law enforcement agency. I think the next chart talks about counties. So if you compare us to counties of similar size, you know, so obviously way south is going to be more, so we didn't include those, even though they may have been similar size. So St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, the residents there pay $435 per person. Putnam County, $539, Volusia, $661, and you're under $400. I'm sorry, that's the one I just spoke about. So, as you know, we are in year 3 of an agreed upon year 3. Also recognize that we've had some things that no one could predict when there was a joint city-county meeting to develop the law enforcement plan for 3 years. So this is year 3. So that's what we based our budget recommendation and request on. So if you'll recall, last year you funded deputies, but some of them you only funded for half a year. So they've all been hired, and so the next fiscal year requires full funding to maintain that. If you don't, then it defunds law enforcement, quite frankly, in there. And so we did lower the request that we had sent to you originally by reducing the COLA. I personally believe the employees deserve a 3% COLA, but the county has said they're going to do 2.3%, and so we lowered the request to 2.3%, which is now reflected in your budget. But to maintain what you have today, no new deputies, the full year funding for the positions that were only funded half a year, the COLA, contractual increases from the unions. And this is what I love about this state, is in the 9th hour, closing days of legislative session, they decided to raise the FRS rates to provide a 1.5% COLA for retirees going forward. Now, I support that, don't get me wrong. It's just kind of like the way Social Security is done, right? Some type of COLA. However, they made it retroactive to 2012 to when they ended the COLA for retirees. That alone is almost $1 million impact in this year's budget. And then on top of that, of course, you all know what they passed in the special session. So on one hand, they're saying send more money to Tallahassee and vote for this COLA retroactive to 2012. If you want the exact number, it's like 900,000 some change. Okay. Oh, and by the way, it starts July 1. I'm not sending you a bill for that. I'm having to absorb that. That alone for the next July 1 to September 30th is almost $300,000 that I'm having to scrape money together to send to Tallahassee. And we predicted our health insurance would increased 20%. Everybody's dealing with health insurance issues. We're searching for new companies because all along we were predicting 15 to 20, so we put in your budget request 20%. Well, we just got our rates from the current provider, 44% rate increase. And that's just not doable, quite frankly. And, you know, and those are things that I don't control, you don't control, because illnesses happen. And we have had some employees with some significant medical issues. And of course, that impacts the insurance rates. And so we're going out to bid. We have been working on this for months now, and to see what other providers will offer. But our loss ratio follows us. So they're looking at that loss ratio, and we'll see what happens in there. So we're currently with United Healthcare. We previously were with Florida Blue. We left Florida Blue because United Healthcare had better rates. So we shop it around almost every year, and I can tell you my employees aren't happy about changing health insurance, and in some cases they have to find different doctors because of the you know, who's in network, who's not. So it's a challenge. So that's kind of the lay of the land of the existing budget, if you will. We worked with your staff on this funding request for 9 additional deputies. On top of that, 4 by the county. These were the 9 that was in the 3-year agreement. But 5 were funded for the full year, 2 funded for a half a year, and 1 funded for a quarter, is how this budget was put together at the request of your staff. And
Sheriff Staley?
yes.
Good morning. Before we move on to that
Morning,
next
General.
slide. Can you go back one slide, please? On the town center deputy, does the CDD provide funding for that officer, or is that something that we covered directly or indirectly?
It's my understanding when this was created, the CDD paid the city of Palm Coast for that deputy.
Okay.
And there's an agreement between the city and the CDD.
Okay. Thank you.
And you can see also on this chart, this is the staff that you're paying for. And they're all dedicated to the city of Palm Coast. My total budget request, which includes yours and to the county, you can see here, just so you can see, I treat everybody fairly. The cost is the cost. The one thing that you're not participating in at all is the $350,000 substance abuse program. That is strictly the jail, and you're not required by law to fund the jail. That's funded by the Board of County Commissioners. That was a grant for almost 5 years, and that grant has expired now. So we don't want to lose the programs that we have in the jail. Just like your operating costs go up, so do mine. Fuel costs, they're all over the place, as you know. Hopefully they'll stay down. And then the Axon contract has increases built in it. Now, just so you understand what that is, that's the taser the deputies have. That's the body cam. It's the cameras in the car, and then it's the storage for all that video and data. And the contracts do a refresh every, I think it's 4 years, 4 or 5, if I recall correctly, built in. The cybersecurity that you see added there for almost $100,000, that's required by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Standards and Training, so that we have access to the state and national databases. Volunteers last year, over 30,000 hours volunteered. There's a calculator for that, the value of a little over $1 million. The volunteers, most of the ones that you see are the COPs that drive around, and they really provide an amazing service for our community at virtually no cost. Car, uniforms, and fuel, basically. Inmate work crew, I know that you use the state, but we do have an inmate work crew that saves the taxpayers about $140,000. And I know that you have occasionally asked if that could, if you guys could participate in that. I would love to have more inmate work crews. I need more sentenced to county jail time inmates to be able to do that, because they also work in the kitchen, so that we have to feed our inmates, and there's only 2 contracted full-time employees in the jail through our outsourced meal provider, and the inmates do the rest of the cooking. But it also, they leave there with a program and a certification, so they can be getting gainfully employed when they leave. So one of the things that I'm very proud of, in fact, we've won this in the state of Florida 3 years in a row, is outside inmate medical billing. So before, just to let you know how this is doing and how we try to save money everywhere we can, I'm required by law to provide for their health care if they're in my custody. Sadly, they probably have better health care than some of our residents because I'm required to do that. And of course, we send them or bill them a nominal fee for that, like a copay, if you will. But what was occurring previously is that if we had to take them outside of the jail, say to the hospital or a dentist or something, the bill would be sent to the county and we would pay retail costs, if you will. And so in partnership with Prime Medical, the Board of County Commissioners, and the Sheriff's Office, we now use Prime Medical Care, who goes out and contract. Basically, they operate like an HMO. And so they make all these contracts. And when the bills come in, they get them, and then they negotiate the rate. And what they do is take a percentage of the savings, so there's no direct payment to them for doing this, but they're averaging about a 60% reduction in cost in there. And so it's good for the taxpayer. Doesn't help you out on your budget, though. Some of the current trends that we're seeing, Flagler County is now the 6th fastest growing. It slowed down a little bit. We were the 3rd fastest growing county. Flagler County is now the 6th, and the majority of the residents are moving into your city. Jacksonville criminals, unfortunately, are finding our community. The good news is most of the times they're getting caught, and if not immediately, within a few days. Same thing with Daytona's violent criminal element have found us. And again, they are getting caught for the most part, or my crime wouldn't be down. Technology has helped us to reduce crime. We use a lot of technology in our real-time crime center. I'd put it up against any agency across the country. I've been to some really big agencies and looked at their real-time crime center. I wanted to see how we paired with some big cities. I can assure you that ours is significantly better.
On technology, I've been doing the budgets for this year for a long time. I always felt that technology might be able to maybe somewhat cut number of deputies needed. Apparently, that has not worked. That has happened. But technology is critical to the future too. So maybe just a little more expounding on. Sure. It doesn't really cut back on the number of deputies apparently, because we've been watching this for many years.
Right. So what it does make the deputies more efficient and more effective, but the calls for service still come in. So the technology has been a big part of driving crime down. It includes our drones. It includes our drone first responders in the technology. It's just not the real-time crime center, although the real-time crime center will now start flying the drones remotely and many times they will get to the call before a deputy, depending on, we have two strategically placed in the city of Palm Coast. And so it makes it more efficient. I think it helped, the technology has helped over the years as we built up the staffing that should have already been here, and I'm going to get to a slide on that. So it has helped, but it's not going to reduce. When a citizen, a resident calls, they want a deputy now, or they want a Flagler Beach police officer in their city or in the city of Bunnell. And I will tell you that our response times are slightly increasing as the volume of calls come in, and you know, they have to get through the traffic too, even with blue lights and sirens. So here is what the Board of County Commissioners and the City of Palm Coast has been dealing with. And it was neglect. It was neglect of funding deputy sheriff. Some of you helped repair this, okay? Some of your predecessors helped repair it. But the red is the City of Palm Coast, what deputy sheriffs they funded for law enforcement. The blue is what the county did. And you will see that there were almost 10 years where the City of Palm Coast did not fund a single deputy for enhanced services. And so you can see, you know, despite the growth that was occurring. So we've been playing catch up. You were previously given two studies that were done by the University of North Florida, one in 2020, based on 2018 calls for service and population. The 2018 study said at that point, at that time, 2020 study based on 2018 data, because that was most available, the sheriff's office was 31 deputy sheriffs short in 2018. Then the study showed that we would need an additional 78 deputy sheriffs by 2025. UNF also did a second study in 2022 that verified that, except what they said was that we need 78 deputies by 2027. This is countywide. Okay. But the study was based on a predicted population of 124,000 in the county. The county population today is just over 140,000. I believe your city is about 110 of that in there. So the study underestimated the population, underestimated the calls for service growth. So what has been done since to pick this, you know, the flat line, if you will, where there was nothing done, is between you and the Board of County Commissioners since the study came in. You guys have funded a total of 75 deputy sheriffs. So the BOCC funded 44, and you have funded 41 of those, if you would like the breakdown. So we're 3 short of what they said we needed in 2025, based on a population of 124,000. So in next year, under the agreement that we had worked out, and granted it's an informal agreement, I don't think anything was ever signed for this 3-year catch-up plan between both boards, 2027, the study would be redone. I can tell you, I can make a prediction. I've been doing this a long time. You're going to find that the study was very conservative when it made its recommendations, and it's not going to be less deputies that are needed. It'll be more based on the calls for service.
Sheriff, real quick, Mr. Mayor, just wanted to touch on calls for service because I think that's an important point. Sheriff, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to go on patrol with you some time ago. I think it was almost a year ago. And one, we had the opportunity to start discussing the e-bike ordinance, and we were now one of the first in the state to move out with that. But I won't get into the details, but there was one particular stop where there was a young man that was that wanted to harm himself, and our deputies responded. And it's really important to realize once our deputies are able to intervene and stabilize the situation, that we now have to do something to help that resident. And so that resident was put into a patrol car and taken down to Halifax for immediate help and evaluation, all the way down in Daytona, because that's the only place that we could take them. And so these are the kinds of things that the level of service that we expect, but it's important that we realize that it doesn't always count as a call. It's something that we jump in, or your deputies jump in and have to do, and it takes time away from the regular duties of patrolling and preventing crime and things of that nature. So when we try to kind of process what that enhanced service looks like, I think it's a great example of it, and time committed to ensuring that our residents are protected, but it does take away from the other duties that you have.
General, that's a great point, and that's a great example, because what maybe was a 30-minute call, to get there, get it de-escalated in the person in the back of the car, which, by the way, it's usually more than one car, okay, because those can be very volatile situations, turns into, on average, 2 3/4 to 3 hours just for that call, because we do have to drive to Halifax. That's the only secured, authorized Baker Act facility. Now, through a grant, if the person is not violent, and during the hours that Stuart Marchman has a triage center here, I guess is what I would say, we can take them to Bunnell, and then they transport the rest of the way. And that was a grant that I worked on with Stuart Marchman a number of years ago. So, but it's not 24 hours, and if they're violent, which sometimes mental health episodes are, they can't go to that facility. But it's a good example of the time involved, which was included in the study, by the way. That's what the second study actually did a more in-depth study of how long does calls take than the first study.
Any other follow-ups in the council? Councilman Miller?
Thanks, Sheriff, for coming and presenting. First, I just want to thank you and all your staff for everything you guys do within the community. We certainly live in a very safe community because of your and your staff's work. I had a question about, I forget the terminology that was used in that report that we were discussing that said that we had a shortfall, but it was something like something about like applied hours or something like that. The number.
Right. Yeah.
The time, what amount of time is appropriate for a deputy to be used versus, the paperwork and the admin side of that as well, and all the other things. As you mentioned, when you have a call for service, it's not just a 15-minute stop, right? It's multiple people. It's then administrative work, transportation, all sorts of different things that kind of use their time. Do we have any idea, or would we have to do another study to see where we are on that metric now versus where we were at the beginning?
I don't have specific to that updated since 2022 on the study. That would be part of the 2027 study, which we committed to doing in there. What I can tell you is that this is one of the decision points in the studies, in case anybody wants to see them again. I believe in transparency. They're both listed on our website. At the very bottom on the far left links, Manpower Study 1, Manpower Study 2. And so you can look at all those matrix because it's there. But one of the decision points is they make a recommendation, and it's a national recommendation on their hybrid study that they created, is how busy So if a deputy's time is tied up 100%, that means there is zero time to be proactive. They're going call to call to call to call to call. And so there's a recommendation in there, and I think it was 69% of their time they should be on calls, and the other 31% is the reports and proactiveness, if I recall correctly on the study. I'm pretty close in there. And so the question is as calls go up, less proactive time do they have, and that's why we're on this growth, because we had all these deficit deputies that were never funded. Maybe they didn't get asked by the former sheriffs. I wasn't here for that, so I can't say how that occurred. So we already should have had, in 2018, we were 31 deputies short based on the population of 2018 on this formula. So those were known as deficit deputies. And that's really what we've been working on, and we're almost caught up. And to what the study said, but the study was based on 16,000 less residents also.
Yeah, just as a closing comment, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about kind of unfunded mandates and requirements from the state. And, we have some tough decisions coming forward with the potential amendment to the Constitution. And, I know they put in there, public safety shall not be unfunded, right? But if you take more than, so for instance, if we were talking about the current budget request along with our fire department, I think would be over 50% of our ad valorem would come from that. But if we're 70% homesteaded, for instance, and most of that being under the 250, or a big chunk of it being the $250,000 exemption, to where we get less than 50% of our ad valorem, how do we not, unfund that, right? And so it's going to be a tough decision to make going forward on how we figure that all out, but we will. Certainly, I'm a supporter of public safety and what you guys do. I think it's kind of the cornerstone of the community that that first level is feeling safe, right, in your home and in the community, and then everything else comes from there, because then you can do business, then you can go to work, you can take your kids to the park. All those things, right, are built upon that. So very important, and I appreciate the work you guys do.
Thank you, Councilman. If I could just respond to that. First, and I'm going to try my best to bite my tongue on my opinion on what occurred in Tallahassee. Okay, I'll probably have more to say about that later. But let's remember that the voters haven't spoken yet. And I know that there is perception that voters will vote for it, and they might. Look, my taxes are $8,000 a year after I moved, and so I learned that the hard way. I'd never even thought about that when I built my new house, and I went from $3,000 because I was homesteaded and Save Our Homes and all that to $8,000, and so I understand the pain. But I also think the voters understand that what the legislature did not do was do anything that affected their budget, which is $114 billion, okay? What they did was screw around with the cities and the counties, excuse my language. But that's what they did. And in my opinion, it was politics. And the people that the leadership won't even be there when this goes into effect. So they're not having to deal with it. And so it's for whatever reason, here, this is where we are. But I do believe that with proper education, the voters will make the right decision. And so I would encourage you to not jump off the cliff yet, because I'm not sure we're there. Because if you look back, there have been two very popular constitutional amendments put before the voters. And education campaigns were done, and I'm speaking about recreational marijuana. Now, it's getting closer every time, but it has never made the 60% threshold. And I think it's up to city and county and leadership organizations to educate the public so they can make an informed decision, not a decision that's based on a paragraph that sounds really good. Because I have looked at the bill myself that was passed, and it says, you know, you can't basically defund public safety. Specifically, it said law enforcement, fire, stuff like that. Left out emergency management, by the way, but which is kind of surprising since, you know, we're a state with hurricanes. But there's no definition on what law enforcement is. Okay, so what gets added to it? For example, Walton County Sheriff, he runs the fire department too. Broward County Sheriff runs corrections, runs the bailiffs, runs law enforcement, runs fire rescue and the fire and paramedic side, 6,000 employees. So is that law enforcement? Brevard County Sheriff has the jail, law enforcement, and animal control. So it's all over, and some of the agencies have emergency management, some of them don't. So it's all over the place in the state of Florida. You know, in my experience, and y'all are elected officials. I've been doing this a long time too, just like y'all have. Anything that gets done in Tallahassee fast, and this was super fast, is never thought through. I've never seen anything come out when it's done that fast. Less than 3 days. Special election or special session called, 3 days later, hammers dropped. Going to be all kinds of unintended consequences, and that's what the public needs to be educated for. But I would encourage you to not jump off the cliff yet. We may have to. We may all be on that parachute together, but I don't think we're there yet. I have faith in the voters that they will see through a political operation, and I'll shut up.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sheriff and Chief, for being here this morning. Just a note, I think in that last handful of years, the state budget has actually gone from 86 billion to the 114 that you referenced. So your comment is right in line with the reality of what we're dealing with. I had a few questions. I want to preface my questions by saying I 100% prioritize public safety. I think that building off of what Councilman Miller was saying, when we have a safe community, we have a prosperous community. It helps property values, it helps economic development, it helps so many other things. So I think education and public safety are paramount and should be prioritized in our budget. But I did want to ask a few questions, and one of them actually goes off of what Councilman Miller was getting to as well, as far as time monopolized. Because when we looked at the studies that you referenced from, I think UNF, is that where it came from? UNF. Right. The metric by which we were determining the amount of deputies to add was that time monopolized metric. And you're correct, Sheriff, in that it was about a third, from my recollection as well, of the time that we needed them to be proactive, doing proactive policing. So I think it's really important for us to keep track of that metric as we decide what we are going to fund, because if that's what we were originally basing this from, I think it's only fair that we continue to track that kind of in real time as much as possible. So any further information you can provide on that would be really helpful as we make these decisions. And then, you know, for the council that will be here making decisions in the future, I think that that's a really good metric, because proactive policing is very important, obviously. You had a slide about the total cost of a new deputy. I didn't see Volusia on there. Do you know what that is? I know you said St. John's was $206,000, I think. Do you know what Volusia's running right now?
I do not, but what I can tell you is their per capita cost is significantly higher. In fact, it's the highest.
Yeah.
So it's probably in line with St. John's or higher would be my guess.
Okay, I just hate comparing to St. John's because I feel like they have so much money and they'll always have more money.
Vice Mayor, I think Volusia apparently has a lot of money too.
Yeah, I know, I've heard.
What I'm competing with
Yeah.
for employees is to pay in St. Johns County, and he's trying to get to $70,000 starting pay. I don't think he'll make it this year, but that's where he's trying to go. And Volusia is trying to compete with them because they're competing with Orlando wages. And so, and what's triggering St. John's, they're competing with Jacksonville, Duval County Sheriff's Office, and which is at least at 70 now, and maybe more as a starting pay. So my starting pay is 57,000 in there, and Volusia's is around 58 or 9. St. John's is at 62, I believe.
Yeah, just, I mean, for the public's benefit and for my fellow council members, I've spoken to a lot of people about the comparison to Volusia. And from my understanding, by 2027, if we don't do something, they will be $10 an hour ahead of us in some key positions, which is not good. We don't want to lose some of our leadership to competing agencies. The sergeant level particularly is very important, and I understand we're kind of in a salary compression issue right now that we want to avoid. So I want to be able to give you all the resources that you need in order to avoid that. Obviously, we have some challenges in the budget. I asked for some statistics from your office, Sheriff, going back to 2024, 2025, and then year-to-date for 2026, and your office was great. Thank you for getting me these figures. Just wanted to ask a few questions and then point a few things out. So you mentioned the total crimes against persons essentially are going down, or they're kind of trending in that direction, which is good. It looks like when I look at the stats comparing 2024 to year-to-date 2026, it looks like the calls for service are going up. But what's interesting to me is that the percentage of out of the city versus in the city of Palm Coast is dropping just slightly. So it looks like there's calls for service total are going up, but the percentage in the city is going down just a little bit. So that kind of goes back to that time on calls analysis. Should the county be funding an extra deputy and the city not be funding? Should that that weight shift a little bit? I don't know if you all have kind of revisited that at all.
No, Vice Mayor, what we did was follow the 3-year agreement.
Okay.
On that, knowing that there's going to be an updated study done in 2027. And we worked with you to try to do a study this year. Mm-hmm. And we got, this is going to sound crazy, we got a great deal from the same vendor for only $50,000. Okay, normally it's closer to 90 to 100. The 2 studies that were done under a grant, so we had applied and got a grant. So these are not cheap studies to do. They're very complicated studies to get all the data points, and do the analysis. So as you know, we were not successful to fund it a year early. But I commit to you that we're going to do it in 2027, and if we can't get a grant, then I'll find the money to fund it, because we need it, because we already know that their study was based on a population prediction of 124,000 as of last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've blown that out of the water, obviously. Okay, so that's good to know. So this is not based on real-time data, but on that study that was done in 2022.
Correct. And keep in mind, that study said that we needed 78 deputies by 2025 based on a population of 124,000 countywide, mm-hmm. Okay, of which 75 have been funded to date. So the new positions were the 3 remaining for what's known as deficit deputies, mm-hmm. and then the growth based on the population. It calls for service.
Have the positions that we've already funded, have those all been filled?
They have, but keep in mind that there's a training process. Mm-hmm. So I have about 30 deputies in a various phase of training. Some of those are in the academy. When I became sheriff, we wouldn't hire anybody unless they already had the state certification that was required. I can't require that today because we won't hire anybody then. Because they can't afford not to work or have some pay coming in while they're in the academy. So they have to go to the academy. Then they leave the state mandated requirement, which is a little over 800 hours, so roughly 5.5 months, 6 months. For that training, they have to then pass the state exam. Once they do all that, then they come to my agency for our in-house training, our policies, because the academies have to teach the state curriculum generically. And so then they come to us, they get our de-escalation training, all the stuff that's unique to the sheriff's office. And then after they finish that in-house classroom time, which is about 6 weeks, then they go and are paired up with a PTO, patrol training officer, more commonly known as an FTO, field training, but we call it patrol training officer because that's where they start. And that can range anywhere from 3 months plus, depending on how well they're doing. And then you hope in this whole process you don't wash them out and have to start over. Then they're finally able to go out on their own. So if you look at the beginning before they're driving a car by themselves, okay, 9 months minimum, sometimes a year.
Okay, and how do we ensure commitment to our agency?
I'm sorry, what's that?
So you said that a lot of them are in training. How do we ensure that we're not a training ground, essentially, that they're coming to FCSO?
Yeah, so we do a lot of front-end work before we even hire somebody. So we got to make sure that they are going to pass everything. Not always successful, but, you know, you do wash out some, and those are the ones that you don't want out patrolling and serving. After that, here's what we know. We know that if we can keep an employee 5 years, they're staying. What we've also learned with the younger millennials and the new zennials is that they think they want to do this, and then they get in it, and they see blood, or they see a violent incident, a death, even a natural death. It's like, whoa, this isn't what I wanted to do. So we're all having some of those issues in there. But that is where, and I just came back from the National Sheriff Association meeting where 600 of 3,000 sheriffs were there. And some of the discussion was the pool that we have to hire from. So we try to hire, frankly, from the military because they're used to a structure. Then zennials that, quite frankly, have been playing games most of their life, okay, at home. And it's a challenge. Our turnover rate is averaging about 5 to 6%, which in the law enforcement field is not bad. But we watch that, and we know that if they stay 5 years, they generally stay. I will tell you, I lost a deputy to Volusia County. He was a good deputy. Why? It wasn't the starting pay. It's because they offered him a $10,000 bonus to go down there. So I guess he needed an infusion of cash and jump ship. Because he can still live here. Mm-hmm. He can still drive the Volusia Sheriff's car to Palm Coast. So, I mean, we do have those kind of challenges. But what I think the reason we've been able to have a lower turnover rate than our peers is because of the quality of life and the quality of this community. Mm-hmm. Look, I started my career in Orange, well, didn't start in Orange County, but most of my career was in Orange County. I would not want to be a deputy sheriff in Orange County today. I just wouldn't want to do it. A completely different community than when I was there. And so that's how we market ourselves and attract people.
You know, and I'm appreciative to the community for how much it embraces your office and our deputies. I think it really is important. So I'm glad you brought that up. The last question I had was, in looking at the statistics, it looks like our adult arrests are down, but unfortunately our juvenile arrests are increasing. Is there something that you all are doing to help in that regard?
Yeah, so our PAL program, after we moved it to the city of Bunnell at not Ralph Carter, just drawing a blank at the park.
EWs.
Carter Center. We now have over 900 kids in the program. Most of those arrests, because we look at this every month when I have my general staff meeting on what we're seeing and what's going on. Most of those, because school's in and they're caught vaping. And they're still considered an arrest, but they're in a diversion program. But that's the majority of what you're seeing.
Well, just so for my council's benefit, so that you know where I stand, I looked at neighboring agencies, comparing cities and counties population-wise, what they spend, and you all are right on track as far as budget, but our crime is much lower. So I think you're doing a wonderful job from the data. That's not me, anecdotally saying that, even though I do appreciate you. That's what the data says. So the other thing that I wanted to point out, I know the thing that I hear from my residents the most is that we need more traffic enforcement. And generally speaking, I agree with that because as you stated, Sheriff, our population has increased. It causes more traffic, as we know. And in looking at the types of traffic crashes, the majority of them are rear ends, right? So it's people not paying attention, people probably on their phone, things of that nature. But when you look at the agency-wide totals for traffic enforcement from 2024 to 2025, this is a really important statistic. Traffic stops in 2024 were 21,566. Traffic stops in 2025, 27,067. So traffic enforcement is improving, it is increasing. I think people, like anything else, when you see the population increase, you see more of everything, all of the issues that come with it. So I also want to point out that the written warnings have gone up by almost 2,000 as well. So, we are seeing more traffic enforcement. So what we have asked you to do with the deputies that we have given seems to be getting done. It's just we have challenges as we continue to grow. One of my commitments when I was elected to this seat was to leave fire and police in a better place when I leave than when I got here. And I'm going to continue to commit to that. I think that that's been ongoing, and I intend to continue to support your efforts in this last budget that I'll be on. We are going to have to make some really tough choices on this board to make that happen. So I appreciate the fact that your ask has actually decreased, because when we spoke, we met a couple times, and I think it was $1 million more than what we're seeing today at one point, and then it went down to $500,000 more than what we're seeing today. So it's gone down even more. So just again, for the public's benefit, we're not getting everything on our shopping list. You all are not getting everything on your shopping list. So I appreciate the willingness to make some concessions as we try to navigate the budget.
I think I have a proven track record of working with both boards, Board of County Commission and the City of Palm Coast, since I've been sheriff. So that won't change. We'll go through tough times together. We go through good times together. I would like to just add one thing as you deliberate ultimately the budget, and I want to talk about the traffic enforcement. As deputies get busier, if we don't stay up with the growth of the calls for service, that reduces their non-committed time, which is where your traffic stops generally are coming in from, because that's the proactiveness. And, we monitor where our traffic complaints come in and assign our people accordingly. But I will tell you, there's certainly more speeders than I have deputies, and there's more aggressive drivers than I have deputies. And the one thing that I've seen throughout my entire career is that there is, especially on state roads, because it takes about 10 years in a pipeline, from what I understand, for FDOT to do something on a state road. In that same time frame, cities and counties are approving development that impact those roads. And so this council can't solve this, but if there could be a way that we could communicate better with the state on the predictions that's coming, then that pipeline might be done correctly. I'm not blaming you guys, because it's in every city and every county in the state of Florida.
Yeah, thank you, Sheriff.
Just had a
Yes, sir, Mr. Sullivan.
nice to see you again. I've been with you all 10 years for these budgets. But a couple of questions. We've covered just about everything, but a couple of questions. Support to ICE and the illegal alien pickups. Are you involved in that, and are there numbers associated with that? And how does that affect number of deputies, and where does the money come from?
Okay, that's a great question. I am limited on what I am legally allowed to say because of a federal statute. So let me explain to you what we are doing. I have a number of deputies inside the jail that are known as warrant service officers, so they can serve a detainer. It takes a federal immigration agent to be able to serve a detainer on somebody that's in this country illegally. So I have trained the appropriate number of staff to be able to do that, because at that moment they are a federal agent when they serve that. On my law enforcement side, I have, well, let me back up. In the jail, my jail has been a detainer jail since 2017. Okay. It was used from 2017 to 2021. Then it did not get used for 4 years. It is being used again. Okay. So there's been no change in my jail since 2017, other than I have additional WSOs. On the law enforcement side, we are required by law, that was passed last legislative session, to have 287G task force officers. The 287 is the federal statute, and G is a subsection. Those people did go to training, and they can actually start an immigration investigation on the side of the road if that's where it comes across. So in other words, if they do a traffic stop, or any deputy does a traffic stop, and they believe somebody that's driving that car or is in that car is in this country illegally, a 287G task force deputy, if they didn't do the traffic stop, will come to the scene and can start the investigation as a federal agent. Now, they can't detain them without the approval as a supervisor by immigration. Okay. And I have what I think is the appropriate number of 287G task force for the size of our community. So most of the people that we come across that are in this country illegally are driving without a driver's license because they can't get one legally. So we arrest them. Then ICE puts a detainer on them. The WSO will serve it after the state case is done. Then ICE has 48 hours to come get them and take them to one of their facilities. So who pays for that? What I can tell you is that we get some money back from the federal government for equipment and a stipend towards their salary. Not significant, but it probably covers a little bit of time that they're doing this. But the reality is that how we're finding them is because they're being proactive. Traffic enforcement, sometimes it's a crime, not too often. We have had a couple serious crimes with people that are in this country illegally, and you probably read about those when we had them. Most of ours are traffic violations that we find, is how we find them. We will support ICE, Border Patrol, they come into this county, because I'm going to support any of my federal partners because they support us. And so I'm limited on I'm by law on exactly, so I can't give you the numbers exactly how many we have picked up because you'll have to do a public records request to ICE. And they never answer those, by the way. You can ask Pierre because he's been trying to get us answers, and it's like, here's a statute, Pierre. I can't give you the answer that you're looking for. You know, so we do participate. It's it's not a significant impact in time, so it's not taken away from our community.
Right. Well, no, that's fine. I'm glad you're able to do that. Just want to make sure any money involved, we have that calculated as best we can. The other question is, was a lot of talk. I was at the groundbreaking a couple of years ago on the guard training facility. Could you give us a status on that?
Well, yes, I'm as frustrated as probably everybody is on that. This project is 3 years behind schedule. I would encourage the governor to doge his Florida Department of Management Services because everyone I've talked to has told me as soon as they find out they're in charge of it, they said, "Oh, let me guess, behind schedule and over budget," and that's exactly what we're seeing. Why it's taking this long, I don't have any clue. I really wish the Speaker of the House would have given me the money or the county the money instead of tying it to the state guard, because that thing would have been built and done by now. They're claiming, but I've heard this many times, they're claiming that they will have the permits by the end of July. But I heard end of last year, I've heard January, then I heard March, then I heard May, now it's the end of July. I really don't know. I'm extremely frustrated with it, and it's kind of one of these things, I'll believe it when I see it. The money's there. Of course, DMS has already taken $2 million off the top, so there's only $8 million left to build it. And they're saying now it's a $25 million project. And I said, you guys are full of you-know-what. Exactly what I told them.
Right, and the problem there is just impact here. I just want to finish by saying that, our police force and the sheriffs, and everything that goes on is great. We have a wonderful group of people supporting the community. And I was impressed last time I was in your office talking to you that you aren't having a hard time finding people who want to work for us in the police department. That used to be a problem a few years back. But now you're able to find people who want to join the police force, but then you start the whole process of, are they going to stay? Are they truly willing to make the effort to become a good sheriff's deputy?
Well, Councilman, you played a big part in why we can recruit so well, because you voted to build a very professional building when we were homeless. It was really hard to recruit when you don't have a permanent home, or HR is buried in a room in the General Services building, and the Sheriff's Office is a judge's chamber, and the list goes on and on. So when you are a professional agency and professional building with professional and modern equipment and technology, oh yeah, it's easy to recruit now. As long as I stay relatively, I don't have to be the highest paid, but I got to be fairly paid.
Is there anything else from you, Councilman Gambaro?
Just to Councilman Sullivan's point on the State Guard facility, or the joint facility, I was in the governor's office a couple months ago and spoke with the chief of staff to the State Guard, and just really gave him a piece of my mind, because we don't really have a dedicated facility for our deputies to go and shoot, the training proficiency. We've got to go somewhere else, and that's absolutely unacceptable. But Sheriff and Chief Strobridge, thank you so much for everything you do to protect our community. We're lucky to have your leadership here, and look forward to moving forward through this budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sheriff Staley, thank you for all you do. I really appreciate it. We're under the constraints of what's going on. Everybody's feeling the pinch. Just follow up on Councilman Sullivan, just a random question. Is it like the military for law enforcement? Is it usually if you have a member of your family that's in law enforcement, you're more inclined to pursue that career? All your years of service, is that what you've seen?
Yeah, yes, there is a percentage of that, but I wouldn't say it's as big as like at NYPD, okay?
Yeah.
Where they follow, it's a family tradition. I will tell you, I guess my dad was a Winter Park police officer in the 50s, but he did not make it a career. In fact, I was maybe a couple years old when he was there. I don't really have any memory of him wearing his police uniform in there. So I guess you could say I'm a second-generation cop myself, but not really. My dad didn't make it a career.
Well, we do get a lot about, why don't we have our own police department? Well, we've had that discussion before. I'm perfectly happy with having, being a contract city, because it takes a lot of, and we had that discussion about standing up a police force. And, and I mentioned to you, my wife, she was a contract down in Broward. They were contract for, I think she worked at Tamarack. So I have, people push that on me all the time, like, no, you just don't understand what it takes to stand up a police department. And I think our level of service with you guys is great. I have no problem. We're the second safest city in the state for a reason. And some people don't realize the villages, they encompass like 3 counties, right?
Correct.
So we're kind of, if we're up there with 3 counties feeding money into an organization, and we're just really us. But I appreciate you guys coming out and giving us our updated briefing. And we're going to do what we can, but the budgetary constraints that we're facing.
Mayor, what I would close with is that you're a safe community because of the partnership between the city council, the mayor and city council, the board of county commissioners, and the sheriff's office. Because it doesn't work if one of those pieces fail. And you've been able to fund better. To those that say start your own police department, operational costs, if you were to do it right, not counting capital, equipment, heavy-duty equipment, buildings, stuff like that, you probably need to find about $40 million. And you're struggling right now to find 2 or 3.
Yes, sir.
Because that's what it would cost you to do it. I would like to just leave you with a couple closing comments, if I may. And
Sir.
Saw you had Priscilla Netz here earlier, and I told her I was going to mention her husband. So when her husband, John, was the mayor, he told me one day over just kind of a coffee little meeting, he said, Rick, he said, I'm going to tell you my feeling, my opinion on taxes in the community. And I never forgot this because I thought it was an interesting perspective. He said, if I raise the taxes, the voters will be mad at me. But if I cut services, they will defeat me. And I thought it was an interesting look at how he perceived the job and setting that millage rate and what to fund. And I think that's pretty accurate from what I've seen, as I watch the political environment. And then finally, I would say, and actually I gave each of you my book, which I never thought I'd be an author, but in it I say, in effect, and this is what I would encourage all elected officials to do, not just you, but all elected officials in this country. Make the right decision, not the political decision. If you make the right decision, the politics will handle itself, meaning positively, okay, not negatively. So I would just like to leave you with those 2 final comments because I know that, you have some tough decisions. Know that we will work with you. And I guess I'm part of the reason, or we all are part of the reason for the growth, because I have people that I don't know that see me in uniform and come up to me constantly and say, I moved here because of you. I said, what do you mean? Well, I did research when I wanted to move from, I always ask them where, and then I totally understand why they're here. Where was the safest community? So I guess we have a part of why you're having to deal with the growth, and the community can be mad at the sheriff's office for delivering a safe community that makes people want to live here. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just one last thing. Congratulations on being published, and thank you for a signed copy of your book.
You're welcome. It's available on Amazon. That's my only ad I'm going to say.
To come up against that narrative, it seems like because of our public records laws, and they get all these videos that they're posting, all their arrests and stuff, which they're cool to watch. It seems like that would deter people from coming to Florida, but most of the videos they air are from some law enforcement agency in Florida. And me and Tracy were talking about it, and it's like, I said, Tracy, I said, that's because of Florida's public records law. They can get those body cam videos, and they can air them, and they can comment on them, you know, Sheriff Land and all those guys. But I wish they'd stop publishing them, you know, just stop.
Mayor, they're making money on them. We get those public records requests, of course, they have to pay for it because it takes time to do the reduction and all that stuff to comply with the law, but then they post them and it's clicks and they're just making money, you know. What you don't want to have is the headline, Florida man. Once in a while you see Florida woman, but it's mostly Florida man.
And I think I've noticed in the last few weeks, last month or so, a lot of Florida departments like Live PD, whatever, On Patrol Live now, they are not in those cities. They're not down in Daytona and Volusia right now. And I think it's because of the election. People don't want that, you know, those eyes on them in the community. I don't know. That's just my thought on it. But I appreciate your time, Sheriff, Chief Strobridge. Thank you guys for coming out. And we enjoy having you in our community, and we're thankful for your service.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor, Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Sheriff. Okay, we're going to move to our, it's an hour and a half. We're going to move on to public participation. This is, we're going to allot 30 minutes. This is for items not on the agenda. So if anyone has any public comments, please come forward. Yes, sir.
Morning, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Randy Baugh. I'm the developer of the project on State Route 100 and Belltower Parkway. You guys passed a right-of-way purchase agreement a few weeks back. Had some really interesting questions. So I wanted to come down there and just answer some of those questions best I could and answer anything else. One of the questions you raised is why don't we have access to State Route 100? Believe me, we fought every which way we could to get direct access to State Route 100. DOT says no way because of the right turn lane that's already existing to Belltower Parkway southbound. We were able to work with our neighbor next door at Southside Business Park, so we will have cross access with them, so there will be a right in, right out to State Route 100 through the adjacent property. That'll help limit a lot of the traffic that'll come down Belltower Parkway. When we first started this project, there was already pre-planning in place for a second left turn lane from westbound State Route 100 to southbound Belltower Parkway, which necessitated a second through lane on Belltower Parkway southbound. We worked with Fong, Virginia, Michael right from the start. They let us know that right-of-way was going to be required for the extra through lane. With that, we also, with their help, developed a separate right turn lane into our project and a widening of Belltower Parkway to the south so that would accommodate a full left turn lane into our shopping center. All of our studies that we did have shown that the Belltower Parkway will actually have better traffic flows after those improvements than they do right now today without our project. So we're really happy about those things that we're able to do to help the city and to help us create a better project. I know land's expensive. There was some concern about the price of that land. Actually, what the value of that land will be on a finished project is about 150% of what the city paid for it. So kudos to Fong and his team for beating us up on the price and getting that property dedicated to the city at a good price there. One other aspect we want to do is there's a very detailed process that we had to go through, and the city lays that out really well, so we're really happy about that. And one of the things that we want to do is be a good partner with the city in our development. Perfect example is we're on the city limits, so instead of just doing a little monument sign, what we're proposing to do in the future is going to be putting in public artwork and a big welcome to Palm Coast entry feature so that you get announced you're coming into Palm Coast. So it's one of the things we want to do. And just one more little thing, if you won't, not about that project, if you'll indulge me just a second. I know there's a lot of issues that the city's seen with regard to, I think it was a dredging project and some other projects, change of scope, change orders, and those costs related to it. We're also a tech company, and we're launching within the next 30 days a change order verification platform to help cities, counties, state governments verify and validate changes of scope, change orders, document all that stuff for the future. So just want you to let you know we're going to make that available to you in a couple of months, and happy to answer any questions on our project or anything else.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Yes, sir.
Yes, good morning, George Mayo, Palm Coast. I was the one who brought up this project, and technically it is Belterre Boulevard, not Belterre Parkway, just so that you know. And having been in the post office, there's all the difference in the name, and to be correct, that's 100 Belterre Boulevard. Mr. John Zobler invited me after the meeting to come to City Hall and meet with him and his team, Fong and Drew, to explain why and how and whatever, explained about the entranceway on 100. So I want to thank them as city employees. They did a fantastic job. I met them. I thank them personally. I just want to let you know how good of a job they were so gracious and explained everything. Unfortunately, some of the things I asked for were set in Tallahassee and home rule, and here we go again. They would like to do these things, but Tallahassee says, no, we know better. So that gave me some answers. I asked them about the traffic situation, and the state will have to reset, if they can, the timing on the traffic lights there when that happens. So thanks to them for that. Also, on June 6th, on ABC World News Tonight at night, they had a major story in there about data centers and hypercenters. And the main gist was they want to build a hypercenter right next to the Nashville Zoo, and all the complaints, et cetera, et cetera. Let me get my phone here. And talking about data centers by the company DC Blocks, BLOX. And I know what you say what we have is not a data center, it's just a connection center for cable. But DC Blocks Data Center, breaking news, growing outrage over planned data center. The locations that they mention of their hypercenters already: Birmingham, Alabama, Huntsville, Montgomery, Douglas County, Rockdale County, Palm Coast, Florida. So they are announcing to national news that Palm Coast, Florida has basically a hypercenter. Now, you can correct this, you can talk to the company, but it just gives the national impression that Palm Coast says, okay, we'll take your data center. And I believe that it is not that, but they are advertising that as this. So I just want to make sure you are aware of this. If it changes perceptions of what we will allow, I know you just had the meeting where you changed the rules, regulations, whatever, for data centers, and I thank you for that. We disapproved 2 concrete plants because of water, and hypercenter is not something we need because of the water problem. So it is DC Blocks, and that was ABC National News on June 6th. So you can Google it, you can look it up, and reference that if you want to make any response to them. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, Jimmy Henge. I'm a Palm Coast resident, District 2. I've been a Florida resident for over 60 years, and Florida has grown a lot in 60 years' time. I've been privy to developments that have been poorly planned, as well as ones that have been well thought out. Being a resident now here of Palm Coast and seeing the rapid growth, the $330 million bond that was taken out to help upgrade water facilities for the city, from what I'm told, is not going to support the already approved 19,000 potential developments, again, that are already in the queue. With the upcoming homestead exemption bill, and obviously the concern about money to be budgeted for various things, with the vote coming up in November, I don't see how there could be any discussion at this time about a westward expansion, 22,000 additional homes above the 19,000 that are already approved. I think that we need to first see if this bill passes and experience what that budget shortfall is going to be in year one, and then again in year two, before there should really be any discussion about any more additional high-density development. We need to put the brakes on the westward expansion and really get through November to see, what our shortfalls may be. So I think, again, we really need to think about, I'm sorry, a little nervous. We really need to, again, plan out what kind of future we see for Palm Coast. A high-density development expansion, I mean, we're not a Orlando or we're not a Jacksonville. We don't have the jobs here. I think any kind of future development talk should be commercial, light industrial, technology-based, and also, I think, some North City retail commercial development. I think that'll help alleviate some of the traffic on 100 in downtown Palm Coast as well, and also create jobs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Miss Darlene. You're not getting any better, are you? Still gimped up? Yes, ma'am.
Always getting better. Darlene Shelley, Palm Coast, K-section. I just want to bring some things to your attention. Unfortunately, pretty sure you already know about these things. Attended the County Commission meeting yesterday. They had some very troubling items on the consent agenda that I asked them to bring some transparency to so local residents can understand what's happening behind the scenes and without any light upon it. One of the items was 7F, which they refused to remove from consent agenda for more discussion, and it's a consideration for the resolution of $3,200,000 with the Florida Department FDOT of Transportation to assist with funding an aviation fuel facility at the Flagler County Airport. There was many attachments in that consent agenda that I fear most folks didn't dig into and open up. But what it amounts to is what they referred to as a fuel farm in the donut hole supposed enterprise fund, which it doesn't act like an enterprise fund when they're taking loans to support their growth and development. Not only that, it's an enclave owned by the county in the center of Palm Coast, surrounded by densely populated hospitals, apartment complexes, beautiful communities, my home included. The problem is none of the folks who came to Palm Coast because of all the beautiful amenities and wildlife and wetlands, beach access, coastal city, all the things that were wonderfully advertised back in the day of Palm Coast. Now, a switch has been thrown in which government officials have been put in place to allow the destruction of everything that makes our homes special, unique, and the reasons why we chose to come here with our families, friends, and children. As a representative of concerned citizens of Palm Coast, which is over 1,000 folks, I would request an additional 2 minutes to continue. Thank you. So, without any discussion, without any delving into the reasons and the implications of what a heavy industrial fuel farm in the center of Palm Coast could potentially have horrible effects for the safety, health, and welfare of the local residents, or any mention, except for me, about incompatibility, which is a core part of our comprehensive plan, a core part of our 2050 initiative, a core part of our land and development code. And I have been saying this to Palm Coast City Council and Flagler County Commissions, and you'll remember Mr. Sullivan, because you were there when I begged them to follow their own rules and regulations to protect the citizens of Palm Coast and Flagler County. Ignored. Thank you for your comment. Pretty much. Sit down, be quiet. This is more than you. This goes so high with the profits and the people pulling the strings of the puppet government that they paid to put in place. I believe it is a conflict of interest to have an appointed city council member sit on this board making decisions for problems that he initiated and voted for in the county. I think that perhaps is unethical. Will that go to the ethics committee? No, because 67 of our ethics committee complaints, complete with stacks of evidence, get dismissed. Why is that? It's because of the folks who sit on the ethics committee. It's why we can't trust the St. John's Water Management District to speak up for the safety of the environment and the ecosystems. Because the global elites and the folks that are in power benefiting from these decisions to turn Palm Coast into an essential workforce, student housing, flight school, apartment complex community, and destroy everything that makes it beautiful is beyond unethical to me. Please don't be part of the problem. Please listen to your constituents who are begging you to protect our homes.
Mr.
our
Mayor,
water.
she's gone past the 2 minutes.
That's it,
Am
Ms.
I at
Shelley.
2 minutes?
Your time's up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else for public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Today I want to talk about accountability. 3 members of this dais, the city attorney, the city manager, and I all have something in common. We swore an oath, not to a person, not to an agency, not to protect the process from scrutiny. We swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That Constitution protects the right of citizens to petition their government, ask questions, seek records, and hold public officials accountable. That oath is one of the reasons I continue to stand here, not because I enjoy conflict, not because I enjoy spending my time at City Hall, not because I believe not because I enjoy spending my time at City Hall, but because I believe accountability matters. For nearly 3 years, I have asked what I believe are straightforward questions. If a standard exists, how was it verified? If a determination was made, where is it documented? If a decision affected neighboring properties, who reviewed it and what evidence supports it? Those should not be difficult questions. Yet too often residents find themselves chasing answers instead of receiving them. Recently, I was informed that I made a recent allegation against the city manager and that communications regarding this matter would cease. For clarity, prior to that email, I told the city manager not to waste my time and that I would not waste his. I also told him not to lie to me. Those statements were direct, but they were not intended as personal allegations. Wanting to understand the concern, I asked for clarification and submitted a public records request seeking records identifying the allegation. The response indicated that no responsive records existed other than the email itself. As I stand here today, I still do not know what allegation is being referenced. I mention this for one reason only, because accountability begins with clarity. If a resident is told they have done something significant enough to end communications, it is reasonable to understand what statement is being referenced. But the larger issue is not about me. The larger issue is whether government holds itself to the same standard it expects from its residents. When residents participate in the city's dirt donation program, they must certify that the dirt they place will not create flooding, drainage impacts, erosion, or harm to neighboring properties. If it does, they are accountable. That is accountability. Residents are held to a standard. The public is simply asking government to hold itself to the same standard. If development approvals are reviewed and approved, show the public how the no adverse impact standard was verified. If conclusions were reached, show the documentation supporting those conclusions. The military taught me that accountability is not punishment. Accountability is responsibility. It is the willingness to stand behind decisions, explain them, and correct them when necessary. The public is not asking for perfection. We are asking for honesty, we're asking for transparency, and we're asking for accountability, because trust is not built by telling the public to trust you. Trust is built when government is willing to prove its work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any follow-up, city manager?
Excuse me, I'm digging further into the comments from Mr. Mayo about the DC Blocks data center kind of promotion. As far as Mr. Davis goes, since I've been here, I've worked at length trying to resolve his particular issue. It reached an impasse after I worked both individually with staff and with council. He's been referred to file a claim in order to address the grievance that he does have. Many of the questions that he asked happened long before I got here, and I cannot provide him those responses. As far as the two little statements that he just made, when he approached me, he, one, advised me not to waste his time, which I have not, and he also implied that I was not truthful in something that I told him that I did do, which was speak to council about a particular portion of what he was attempting to negotiate. When I shared the results of that, apparently that did not reach his satisfaction. So in that particular issue, I told Mr. Davis that I had no further response for him. There's nothing else I can do for him at this time relative to his complaint of the flooding at his home. However, I did specify that anything from December 17th, 2025, which was the first day of my employment forward, I'll be more than happy and willing to sit down and talk with him, his family, like I have been since I've been here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Councilman Miller, you got anything? You don't have anything. Moving on.
Okay, I have a few, thank you. Do you have anything, Councilman Miller?
No, I was just going to mention, Mr. Mayo, in terms of we put in there, and that will be, we'll add this in a future meeting in terms of official action, but the way it reads right now, my understanding is that anything that's considered a data center would have to come to council, receive supermajority approval. So the previous version of this was administrative. Some things, we mentioned the state kind of doing things that make things difficult for us. One of them is an administrative approval of certain development, right? So if it's under a certain threshold, it just kind of gets automatically approved as long as they meet the comprehensive plan requirements, right? The code, so to speak. So this prevents that from happening for data centers. Anything has to come before us and receive a supermajority vote, so we'll always get a chance to review it. The public will get to see it, all of those things that was a concern prior, so that's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. So a couple things. Mr. Hengy, just to clarify for the public, I think accurate facts matter. The new loan for the water was $284 million, not $330 million. There's a reason why the $330 million is a larger figure that was used. Basically, we refinanced a loan that we already had. So we need to be very clear about that. It's not new debt. And if you look at the, quote, 19,000 homes that are in the queue, over 6,000 of those are from the infill lots that have obviously been in place since the inception of the city. as designed by ITT. So, I think it's really important that we take these facts and figures that people like to throw around into context. And if you'd like to meet with me, Mr. Henge, I know you're running for office, to provide you some facts because you state that you were told some certain things. I'm happy to meet with you and any other resident to talk about some of these data points, just to make sure that we're relaying proper information to the public. Speaking of proper information, I watched the county meeting last night with regards to some of the development that came through and across their board. There was discussion of a new fueling station. I'm not really sure why it's being called a fuel farm. It's far from that. As a matter of fact, if you watch the county meeting, the county commissioners pointed out that the capacity of fuel that is going to be going into this new development at the airport is equivalent to that of a Wawa. So it's not a fueling state or a fuel depot. It's not a fuel farm. It's basically a gas station. So again, facts matter. Finally, with regards to DC Block, so Mr. Mayo, I know what you're talking about because doing some searching on the internet, it does reference, and this does come straight from DC Blocks, there's a handout that they, and it's on our website actually, but there's a handout that they gave, and it says, the Palm Coast Cable Landing Station is a specialized data center. So I could see why there would be some confusion about that. It says it serves as a landing point for international subsea cables and houses communications and power systems needed to connect them to land-based networks. So I can understand why that, that term is being used. Unfortunately, it's not the same as, kind of our hyperscale data centers that we've talked about. But what's really important about this handout is, and again, this is on our website, it's a PDF. If you scroll down, it actually talks about it says addressing common questions and concerns. Will my power bill go up? Will it use a lot of water? Will the project impact my neighborhood? Some of those hot button topics that people are concerned about, rightfully, I believe. But the first question, will my power go up? It says no, the local utility already has sufficient power to operate the CLS. Residents will not see higher utility bills because of our facility. Will it use a lot of water? No. Unlike many data centers of the past, our data center uses a closed-loop water cooling system, and it explains what that is. And then, if you look at the size of this, it's basically going to be the size of, like a large department store. So again, I understand, words matter. So it's unfortunate that they have used those words, but I think if you look more into it and you actually read the handout, it kind of clarifies why it is that language has been used. But I thank you for bringing it to our attention. Thank you, Mayor.
Can I jump in and just add something regarding data centers? The term data center is a very broad term, right? So the city of Palm Coast operates a data center because we have servers that fit in what you would be maybe like a large closet or a small room. It's not what we're talking about when we're talking about hyperscale data centers and 1 million square feet and 500,000 gallons of water use per day. So it just depends on the scale in terms of how that impacts us, right? And so this is 30,000 square feet, and when we're talking about hyperscale, that's 500,000 square feet or higher typically, and has those huge impacts because we're talking about something 50 times the size of what this is. And so the reason why I bring that up is because we can say it's a data center, that's bad, but it could be a tiny data center or it could be a very large one. Those ones are bad, right? And so it's the scale. That's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, you know about the state passing the legislation about the hyperscale centers, and just for you, Vice Mayor, fuel farms is just like a general term that they use. It may offend some people, but you're correct. It depends on the amount of storage. But typically on airfields and stuff like that, well, at least from my experience, we call them fuel farms. Got an Air Force guy shaking his head north-south. So you got anything, Councilman Sullivan? Nope. Councilman Gambaro?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to piggyback on what the Vice Mayor and Councilman Miller have already touched on, with regards to the data center, this council is trying to, I think will move in a direction to to make it very difficult to bring one here unless it meets certain parameters and conditions, and it's a high threshold in order to make that happen. So we are setting, I think, the process in place to ensure that if it's not compatible with our community, it's not going to get approved, and not administratively, but it has to come to council for a decision to be made. So we're taking this issue very seriously. We understand the concerns with regards to data centers, and that's why this council has taken action. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that being said, we're going to move on to approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the City Council, June 2nd, 2026 business meeting, June 9th, 2026 workshop. Anyone have any alibis or corrections for the minutes?
Mr. Mayor, move approval of the minutes.
Got a motion to approve?
Second.
Got a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? You good to go, Ms. Cook? Thank you. We're moving on to the consent agenda. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. Do we need to pull any or any discussion? Anybody have any issues, complaints?
I just had a couple questions, but nothing to pull.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I say sir too much.
All right.
Who's handling these? Is Brian here? Which one you got?
It's item G2 and item G2, G3, and G5, but kind of same group of questions, and I think all within the purview of Mr. Carmelo. So it seems that these are all work orders to be approved for studies with Freeze and Nichols. So the first one is work order for Dry Lake Stormwater Preliminary Report, $197,000. It says $304,000 to approve another study for stormwater with Freeze and Nichols. And then item G5, work order for a feasibility study, Freeze and Nichols, essentially $143,000. So my questions are kind of twofold. One, at what point do we hire somebody in-house to be able to do these types of studies, if that's possible? Because just with these 3, we're spending $700,000. And 2, can Freeze and Nichols do anything for us on cost, being that all 3 of these are with their firm?
Group rate.
Yeah, group rate, super group rate.
Good morning, Carmelo Morales, Stormwater and Engineering. I guess I'll address the first part about hiring somebody in-house. I mean, if that's an opportunity that can happen, we could probably entertain that. We would need more staff. Obviously, I don't know if we're always going to have these projects coming forward like this, where in the long run, we're paying for a full-time position of an engineering. I don't know if we'll have the workload to sort of satisfy that salary.
Well, can I just push back a little bit? I mean, what was the total you just quoted?
700, but
Right,
this
so-
is just today.
Right. But let's assume that's the whole year. That's going to cover a 5-year runway on this position, right? So, it should. I mean, unless we don't have any more studies like this in 6 years, then that premise I don't think is valid. That it would cost more in the long run to hire somebody. So,
Yeah.
I think we need to look at that.
Well,
And that's multiple things, other studies that we do, grant writing, there's all sorts of different things that potentially, it may seem like, hey, it's a high salary position, right? But at the same time, what's the cost benefit, right?
And just to add to that is, so it's not one position, right? So when you hire a firm like this, they have multiple specialties, right? They have divisions. So you have environmental aspects to talk about. You have utilities. You have geotech. You need soils information. You have, the drainage guys and the hydraulic modelers. There's several things that go into it. So even bringing one person in that can help out with that, they're probably not going to be an expert in all of these fields, which is what these firms sort of provide, right? It's all inclusive.
Is it legally possible, because I know we have to go out to bid for certain things, but is it legally possible to have a firm like this on retainer, and maybe you get a better rate because you know you're going to them for certain jobs like this. And and I hear your point, Councilman Miller, with regards to, well, you know, we're bringing on somebody full-time. Will this be cheaper in the long run? But we see these studies all the time. And every time I see one of these studies on the consent agenda, I cringe because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars every time. So I'm just trying to think of a way to long-term maybe reevaluate how we're doing these things. And I know this is the traditional way to do them, and we may have some legal constraints. I don't know the answer to those questions, but I would encourage maybe trying to figure out a different way to get this done.
I only said that this, like, let's assume this is the only cost, to be as conservative as possible. It's likely that the cost is much more.
What about cross-training, Carmela? Like in, you know, us guys that were in the military, you're always cross-training for something. You got a collateral duty here or a collateral duty there. Do you guys, as a standard practice, do you guys try to cross-train and get people the certifications that these outside firms have? Do you try to do that, get those for the employees on staff?
We do try to cross-train. But the specifics of what we're talking about, you know, from being let's say a stormwater engineer, or basically you're a civil engineer, and civil engineering has so many branches, right? Yeah. Geotechs are part of civil engineering. Transportation is part of civil engineering. You know, utilities is part of civil engineering, stormwater, right? So it's really difficult to cross-train, and we do cross-train, but it's really just to become familiar with it. To become an expert in designing all of this, it takes years, right? You have to start as an EI and be mentored.
It's a specialty for a reason.
It is, yeah, and we can cross-train as much as we can here, but it's really to become familiar and to do some design aspects. Certainly not for a major project. I wouldn't feel comfortable having, you know, some of our guys. I can probably do a little bit of this stuff. I just don't have the time to do all this, and I'd still be having to go out and get consultants.
It's a step.
I need a geotech to give me information. I need surveying to give me information. And those costs are all included in some of these feasibility studies.
Yeah, I get it. You know, just people just hate seeing, you know, the common complaint is, well, these guys are being paid so much money. Why do you have to always farm it out to something else?
Outsourcing.
A lot of people don't understand that a lot of the special skills and processes that they have to go through. I get it. I understand wanting to keep it in-house, but the need, because for years and years you watch and you see how many studies we pay for, but it's a necessary evil in some cases. So.
Yeah, and just one more point on that. One of the things that I'm trying to do with this is obtain these reports and gather as much data as I can, where once we have the feasibility, the project is feasible, right, it's good to move forward, we come up with the funding, then in-house we could do the final permitting, right, and doing that submission and just sort of gathering reports from others, which is a cost that's not included in there. You'll see that there's no permitting costs in there, right? So some of those things we can offset. That's something we can manage, that part of the design project, right? So.
Well, and I appreciate that, because that was my next question was, is there any part of the scope that can be reduced based on what we're able to handle in-house?
Yeah, and what you're seeing, by the way, that's the negotiated scope. All of these projects, they're much higher.
They wanted more.
That's what I was able to draw it down to.
Okay.
There was more initially, yes.
I think the staff has gotten the gist that we're trying to keep it, you know, costs down.
Yes, sir. We've got that loud and clear, sir. We're working hard toward that, and we will make the pledge as staff that we will not be utilizing any services that we cannot defend.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I don't want it to come off as if I think that we're just, you know, making it rain paychecks to freeze and nickels. That's not what I'm saying, but I do think it's incumbent upon us to not just rubber stamp everything that's on the consent agenda, and to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for the taxpayers' money and for their stormwater fees, to make sure that they're being used prudently. My other last question was, it says that for the first one, item G2, it's to approve a work order to build upon a previously conducted feasibility study. So why do we need an additional feasibility study?
Is that the Dry Lake one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the dry lake, the previous feasibility study, that was done by DRMP, and truth be told, they were working on other projects, and I don't know how familiar you guys, that was probably several years ago. There was a potential development that was going to be happening there, and the city was trying to enter into an agreement about, excavation of that pond. So we needed an answer quick. So they put together a $30,000 feasibility study, and it's just very, 10,000 feet overview look of things, where they suggested a bunch of things, right? So what was modeled was basically several weirs, lowering a weir at another location, providing connectivity between some canals, adding the new pond, all as if it was all just done in one step, and then they provided what the benefits are. What this is going to help us is, one, sequencing it. What needs to get done first and what doesn't need to get done, right? Sort of run some scenarios where, do we really need this, that, try to maximize what we're trying to get out of it. Maybe we can do it without the 3 weirs, right? That sort of stuff. So this is what this feasibility will do. The other one was just really high level. Yeah.
How many years ago was that one?
It was probably 3 years ago. So now we're currently working on with the Soletta Lakes. I think they're the new owners of that property. So that agreement is kind of coming back with a different developer, and we need the land acquisition that we're swapping to be able to do a lot of what that feasibility study called out for. And some of the stuff in that feasibility study is construction items that we can do in-house too. I think our last presentation, I showed a little area where there were some pipe replacements and whatnot that we can probably do. But that's the main reason. It's going above and beyond, and not just doing everything that was there. Just sort of really looking at it, do we need to do everything that is there?
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just on the first item, since we're talking about saving money, I believe that's the contract that was held up, a small contract that was held up due to one word in the contracting language. So I'd be interested to know how much additional cost is involved if we had agreed to the original contract on that one versus the final version here. Was there any additional cost involved?
I'm not familiar with which.
I think that's a utility project. Is that the pump station, master pump station?
Remember, we spent a lot of time talking about it, and we could have just approved it, but we went back and there was one of the people who lost the contract challenged it.
Okay.
That's the bid protest.
And so my point is that we could have approved it, but we went ahead and went through the process, and now it's coming back and it's going to be approved. So I suspect there was an extra cost involved in doing that, just as a point of reference.
Yeah, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. O'Shea is not here. He had to take an emergency meeting, but I don't have those facts on that. I know his and staff have been working hard to make sure this contract is good to go.
This is the challenge to the bid process, right? That then came to city, it went all the way up through staff and then to city council.
Correct, sir.
Okay.
So this is just for odor control. It's developing a standard when they do odors, and then this is also combating 2 other odors at I believe, our plants, is what Mr. O'Shea told me.
And who we're awarding it to now is the same as the original?
I can't remember that information.
My point is, it's going to cost a little more money. We could have gone forward with it before.
Certainly, but I think
It was a waste of time.
there's a
It was a waste of
value.
time.
I think there's a value in having a process that is fair.
As long as we did the right thing. Did that same, I don't know the background on that as far as if that same company bid the contract.
I don't have the background on
I don't either. You got anything else, Councilman Sullivan? Councilman Gambaro? Any other issues?
I've got just one more thing that I forgot to mention in the spirit of cost savings, right? The reason why we're trying to get all these projects gone through the same company instead of sort of distributing it is we are updating our stormwater model, right? You guys are aware we have a citywide stormwater model. If we go with different engineering companies each time, and it's the new stuff is saved under different versions, and we have to go hire somebody to consolidate that into one, right? So we try to sort of attack these, like we did last time with Geosentech, we gave them 2, and now we have an updated model that include all the work they did. And we'll do the same thing. So giving it to one consulting engineer saves the city some money in the short run.
There's a certain level of continuity there, I get it.
Correct.
Anything else from the council? Can we get a motion?
Move approval of consent agenda?
Second.
Got a second? Any further discussion by council? We'll open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to come forward concerning these consent agenda items?
Darlene Shelley, Palm Coast. I feel as a resident who's been looking into these types of things since 2019, there's not a lot of transparency about what you've just talked about. And I believe you owe it to the residents of Palm Coast to be fully transparent in what you're talking about. What are the details of this? When I look at the agendas for the county, they have links where when you go through the consent agenda, you can click on a link and find out what they're talking about.
Ms. Darlene?
Yes.
We have the same thing. You can. we have-
There's no link for me to click on to find out what properties you're talking
Mr.
about.
Duffy, we do link to all the documents now, right? There's a
I'm looking
link.
right at it, there's no link. So if you could just please clarify for the residents of Palm Coast what these consent agendas, which I don't agree with in the first place. I believe that things that have such potential to affect the quality of life, the safety, health, and welfare of the residents deserve to have a full presentation so we know what is really happening here. Where are these properties that you're talking about? Stormwater models, multi-site stormwater pipe rehabilitation and replacement, approving a work order for the Lehigh Canal Extension feasibility report. What does that entail? I believe that there's a lot more here that's not out in the sunshine, that no residents of Palm Coast can understand because you're not even listing where these properties are. You know, forgive me if I'm naive because I am not a politician. I'm not an attorney. But I have done so much research that I know the potential for harm to our property values, quality of life, constitutional rights to peaceful enjoyment of our homes. I know about the problems with the quality of our water. I know about the wells that are located in areas that haven't had an environmental assessment since 2009. And that is by design. And I think it's wrong, and I would love to have full transparency on what you're voting on.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Yes, ma'am. It's just for the items on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
Okay.
if I was in the right spot for public comment about stormwater concerns. Is this, can I say something?
That's for general comments unless it's something specific to the consent agenda items.
Okay.
We'll have another public comment at the end.
Okay, all right.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any further discussion from the council?
Just in terms of clarity and sunshine, everything that you can see is what we can see. We don't receive any other information than what's in this packet. So the public has all the information that's available.
And if you can't get to it, Ms. Darlene, talk to Ms. Cook or Ms. Kershaw, and they'll square you away on getting those.
And we often workshop a lot of these items too. We go
Yes,
into
before
quite a
they
bit
would
of
come.
detail. That's why they come to the consent agenda.
Anything else from the council? Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro,
Yes.
Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item H, resolutions. We only have one resolution, 2026-XX, approving utilizing unused pre-approved funds from the Indian Trail Sports Complex parking expansion project to advance the construction of additional parking at the Southern Recreation Center. And you're handling that, Carl?
Yeah, I can speak to that one. The
Okay.
the initial $1.5 million for Indian Trails was based on if that project was bid out for contractor work. We obviously did a bunch of the work in-house. We did, hire someone to do paving and some other miscellaneous work. I think the striping, maybe a little bit of electrical work, but we did a bulk of it in-house. So we had, a lot of cost savings. One of the things we're trying to address is maintaining our existing parks, facilities, and we have the expanding parking at Community Center as an upcoming project under design with the Fire Station 22. When Southern Rec expansion was built, the clubhouse with additional courts, we weren't able to construct the required parking to meet our city requirements at the time. So this was with those savings, we were looking to add to address a known issue at an existing facility and to meet our initial obligations of that project to provide the required parking. So the intent was to construct it in-house again, as much as we can, to deal with the parking and some stormwater improvements and some other items out there, sidewalks and whatever associated with those work. So that's what is in here today, to use those funds that were for parking expansion at Indian Trails to address the parking issues at this facility.
Thank you, sir. I think this is a win-win for the city here. I stopped by, and Matt stepped out, but I stopped by out at Indian Trails yesterday, and a couple of the special projects team were out there, and they're closing out that project. What I wanted to discuss with the council, and I thought about it a few days, but I brought it up with Marcus and Mike yesterday. That's $1 million, right? We got $1 million of impact fees, right?
It's split between capital projects fund and impact fees. I think it's like 47.28% capital, and the rest is impact fees.
Okay. Well, what I was thinking was, why don't we add an additional amenity out there at the Southern Recreation Center? We can get, and which is one of our strategic action plans for this year, and it's also in the Parks Master Plan, is a skate park. We can get a nice skate park put in out there for under $1 million. And it's diversifying that, amenities to other residents within the city. Because impact fees have to go to new items, right? They have to go towards something new or improvements, right?
Correct. We did, just to speak to that, when we were doing the initial master planning for this site, where this parking is going is under the FPL easement. We did propose basketball courts and skate park to FPL, and they shot us down. They said not allowed.
I'm thinking behind the fire station. I don't know, could you pull up a map of that property real quick,
I got
Carl?
a map right here.
Because we have, to me, it seems like we have the land out there, and
So this is a map. The green are what's existing. The items in pink are the future expansion items.
Pickleball and tennis.
There's 5 more tennis courts, because to get to 20 courts gets you into certain USTA tournament play. So those are those 5 additional courts, and there's a half court for practice and warm up. Behind the existing 6 pickleball courts, that green area with the pavilion, that's for when you have events. You got places for players, for vendors, for awards. And then we do have an area to the right of that, which was going to be more pickleball. And then a little bit of pickleball by the cell tower. That square box is the cell tower, and behind that is where the maintenance facility would go. This is a huge piece of property between the trailhead, the dog park, the fire stations here, the tennis complex. They need maintenance and storage. So that was a building for maintenance. So it would have to go somewhere where the courts would go. You'd have to not do some future courts and potentially do, a skate park somewhere.
Carl, I was thinking over here because, well, really, the geographic center of the city, from when I've looked up and found, is Fire Station 21. If we did something with a skate park, I'd rather have it in the center of the city, geographic center of the city. However, if we did it there behind the fire station to the south side of, if you could pull up a satellite view, that'd be great. If we could do it there.
The south side of the fire station?
The southeast side of the fire station.
There's wetlands. You see these red lines right here? That's wetlands.
Okay.
And
So
there's
we
a
can't
pond
do
for
it
the
there.
fire station here. The fire station site is completely maxed out. There's no air. There's a little bit of lawn space right here, but it's minimal. The sheriff's drone is here. And then there's wetlands here you can see right around these tennis courts. So really the only place you could go is down by the cell tower where the future pickleball courts are. Now, we did have discussion in town center where the Y is going about putting a skate park on that site. Well, it wouldn't be Y run, it would be a city facility on that property when that gets built. So that's a potential item within the CRA. So in the future, if the CRA dollars, you always could use those as a match to park impact fees as well.
But me personally, and you guys know my thoughts on racket, but this is something that's been asked for in the community, and we could do it for under $1 million. Finding a property, if it's here in the town center where the Y is going to go, we could go ahead and build that skate park now.
But just to make note, that project's not even in our 10-year park and rec master plan or CIP. So it'd be an added project going above and beyond prioritizing everything else that's in there.
Or you'd have to, so, Mr. Mayor, just for clarity on my position, I support trying to get this skate park done sooner rather than later. I think there's an ask for that. It's just, as mentioned, right now it's like in year 13 of the Parks Master Plan or something, way off, right? Not budgeted. So that means shifting it forward and shifting something else back in order to accommodate that. But I mean, I would support looking at that and trying to figure that out.
But this is something we have in our SAP, Strategic Action Plan, for this coming fiscal year, right? That's one of the possibilities. I forgot 1 point, whatever it is. I sent it to you, Mike. What number was it? 4 point something? But even if it's not that property, if we had another piece of property that's big enough to accommodate, with special projects, helping them out. Matt, something I brought up earlier, I was out at Indian Trails yesterday. Those guys did a bang-up job. I really appreciate their work out there and save that money for the city. I really appreciate that.
That's correct. I go by there every time I drive by. I'm like, let me pop in and see how it's going. And they've done a great job out there.
So what do you guys think about that? Just not do anything else for parking there and try to figure out how to get a skate park with that $1 million that we saved through Matt and his crew. It diversifies some stuff for the kids to do in the community, not just the kids, but adults too. We've had enough people come in here.
I live down the street from here, and I go there often, and parking is always a problem. Always a problem. I think from a skate park perspective, I think we all want to see how we can get there, again, sooner than later. But I think this is a problem right now, and I think it's something that as we work through our budget cycle, we can see if we can come up with that revenue moving forward.
Let's ask this question: Is the Southern Recreation Center in the black right now? Mr. Hurst, are we in the black on the Southern Recreation Center fiscal year? We are not. Are we not in the black because of parking?
Parking can definitely help. We are limited with space out there, so more parking, more members, more programs, more events. Those can definitely help us get close. Yes.
But that's not preventing it from being in the black right now. There's other contributing factors, right?
Can you repeat that one? Sorry.
I said, but that's not the primary factor why it's not in the black. There's other contributing factors. It's not parking alone that's preventing the Southern Recreation Center full cost recovery, correct?
There are other factors, but I do believe parking is one big part of that, why we can't get as close as we can to cost recovery. I think at the At this time, I think in 2025, off the top of my head, I think we're close to about 65, 70% cost recovery for the facility.
I just think we have a excellent opportunity here to lean forward and get something done that's on our set with monies from this year's budget before we even start the budget process.
Can I ask some questions? So the parking that you're referring to paying for, was that already planned and we're just kind of fast forwarding it with this funding?
It was in the 5-year CIP. We were using the CRA as a match in a future, towards the end of the 5-year plan, to add the parking here and do a maintenance building. So because the dollars came up and we know we have other obligations in the CRA, we said, hey, we can use those dollars for parking, just to add parking where we have another issue and concern and obligation to provide additional parking. Now, we could do nothing. We could save those capital project fund dollars for the MOC and help advance the MOC and just push everything off into a future time, to council's directive as to how we want to proceed.
Okay. So I agree with you, Councilman Gambaro. I think that parking at the Southern Rec Center is, it's bad as an understatement. And also when we're looking at this, our goal of this being a USTA facility, something that is top tier, we need people to have somewhere to park and preferably not in dirt and blocking other people in. And I know those issues occur. And this is a daily thing. It's not just during special events or anything like that. It's daily. Parking is rough out there. We're all vying for dollars here. My suggestion for part of this money was going to be to add safety improvements at Indian Trail Sports Complex in the form of a net around Field 2, specifically now that we have the college league out there. I tell you, I used to work for the farm team for the Yankees in Charleston, South Carolina, and I've seen people get beamed in the face with a foul ball, and it is not pretty. And I have heard now from a few people, moms in particular, that they're concerned about safety issues out at specifically on Field 2 at Indian Trails. And so I think that if we can add, and Palm Coast Little League did contact me. They have a really it seems to be a good plan. So I would like to get, and I know James, you've been in touch with them about it. I'd like to get some information, have staff work with Palm Coast Little League on what that would look like. It certainly wouldn't cost anywhere near $1 million, so it would still leave plenty of monies to do whatever else we decide to do. But they also would like to enter into a public-private partnership with the city to create an actual batting cage facility. Nothing huge. I'm not talking like something that you see at like, a theme park or anything of, stacks of batting cages, but a safe batting cage structure that is actually caged in so that people can practice out there safely. So I would like staff to look into that. I think what I'm saying is I'm not so sure that I'm ready to commit the $1 million strictly to SRC parking. I certainly do want some monies to go there. I think it's necessary. But I would like staff to explore some of these safety improvements at Indian Trail Sports Complex, specifically at this time, because we already have, construction that's been ongoing. I think it would be a good time to make it happen. Basically, what Palm Coast Little League is looking at the city to do is put up the net around Field 2, which I think is absolutely paramount for safety purposes. But then also to extend a concrete pad for the batting cage structure, and then they would actually do the actual cage itself. So that's a good opportunity for us. We've got a league that is willing to put money into our facility, enter into this partnership with us so that it doesn't get paid for by the taxpayers, but also we're adding some safety components in that area that I think are absolutely necessary. So that would be my proposal. Mayor, I completely agree with you that we need to look for an opportunity for a skate park, but I actually think that the opportunity to have it done on the YMCA property is the best option. It won't be run by the YMCA, and I know some of our skate park community was concerned about that. It would be run by the city, but it's a good place for it, and it can be done pretty quickly, because I think we're looking at doing the Y in the next handful of years, and, but in, what, 3 years? Is that what we're looking at, Mayor? Sorry, not Mayor, City Manager?
About that time frame. And if I have,
Yeah.
could I have a little more extra on that? So with consensus of council and staff hearing your direction, would you like this to come back at a workshop in the near future?
Yeah, I think, Mayor, what do you think about that? I think that's a good idea, a workshop
Further
where we
discussion.
can, the possibilities
Yeah,
with this
then
money.
then we can talk about what to do with it, and
Yeah.
it's not holding this money up for 6 months or something like that. We can get it to work as quickly as possible once we decide what we're gonna do.
We could workshop it, but I just thought, and I started doing some research, I'm like, wow, like, can we build a park, a skate park for $100 million? Talking about the one down in New Smyrna. It's just diversifying stuff for the kids. We have seen, they have come in here in force trying to get something, and, I'm looking for that ROI for the community, that real ROI for the community. So, well, we can workshop it. Somebody want a motion to table it, and we can bring it back and try to workshop it?
Yeah, I hear you on the ROI, but I think the ROI for expanding the parking is pretty exponential as well. So I just think, I think a workshop's a really good idea to look at all of the options. And when you all do come back, I would like to see the breakdown, Carl, of the monies. What is impact fees versus capital project monies? I think that's important as well.
Of the $1 million?
Yes.
Of what we've saved.
I think it's 47.28% is
Of that total?
of that total is capital projects fund. So it's roughly a 50-50 split.
Okay.
Which it's the requirement that we have to match that. Yeah.
Correct.
Madam Vice Mayor, would you mind if summarizing, just so staff can make sure that we've got all the points that you want to come back up? The staff direction.
I'll make a motion to, Marcus, would it need to be to deny this at this time, or just table it? Okay, I'll do a motion to table so that staff, you don't like that idea? You're throwing pens off the dais. I'll make a motion to table this item so that staff can bring back a workshop providing options to council of what can be done with these monies, including possibility for a skate park either on this property or on another property, expanding parking for SRC and the benefits that we anticipate would flow from that, and safety improvements at ITSC, if I have consensus from council to look at all those things.
Got to get a second. Get a second?
Second.
We got a second. Is that enough guidance for you? I would like to have, possible properties that we could do a skate park. That's, for me, I want to see that. If not, on the Southern Recreation Center in the city, closer to the center of the city, geographic center of the city.
This is specifically park impact fees that we're talking
Capital
about.
and park impact fees.
Right,
See, because-
but the usage has to be for recreational purposes, is what I'm getting at. For any varying versions of what we would like to do with this money, they're park impact fees, so they have to go to a park amenity.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you good with that, Carl?
Yes.
Okay, we got a second. Any other discussion from the council?
I just think that in this day and age, it sounds like a significant amount of money, but $1 million doesn't go too far.
Yeah, but if you could get a skate park.
I'm not saying, no, I'm
for
not saying, I'm
that.
just saying, we'll see. We want to do the best
We staff did a ton of research as well when I think the first time this council had the group come to advocate for the skate park, there was a lot of emails flying around. I think John had some experience in Ocala as well. I did some public record requests for the Orlando, Orange County, and some of the stuff they did. So we have a bunch of information about parks, and we were searching for the versions of this that were, as you said, Mr. Mayor, under $1 million versus some of the versions of these that are $5-10 million.
Yeah, the SAP, the line item, I sent it to Mike, probably too early for him. He might not have been out of bed this morning. It's 4.4 on this year's SAP. Has anybody seen?
I was already up a couple hours, sir. Yes, sir.
Has everybody seen the skate park they have up in Jacksonville under the interstate? Anybody?
Yeah,
been
that's
up there?
amazing.
You've seen it?
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, that's such a good use of that space because it's under the interstate, so you got shade all year round. It's just a good use of space. I don't know how Jacksonville figured that out, but somebody was smart.
Yeah.
So we got a motion, we got a second. We're going to open this. Any further discussion from the council? We're going to open this up for public comment. Anyone have any public comments concerning this tabling of this measure? Yes, ma'am.
Anna Gibson, P section. I didn't know you were going to talk about this today, but I might as well comment on it. I spent some time in small town Tennessee, and what I have realized participating in their local government is that you overpay for literally everything. For example, they spent $200,000 to build a beautiful playground, and you're talking about spending $100 million on a skate park, right? 100 million?
1 million.
1 million on a skate park, which is still a little outrageous in my opinion. I mean, we were up in arms over the mayor admitting she spent $500 on a trash can. Have you guys even thought about how much you spend on trash cans and whether that is even reasonable? The other thing I learned is that every investment they make in a park comes from a matching grant with the state. Have you guys thought about looking for a matching grant with the state? Probably not. So this is what I'm just trying to tell you, is your budget is out of control, what you're spending is out of control, and there's no clear visibility into why you come to these prices and who you're using. So I think that you need to do a little bit more research, look for grants that could help fund this, and really look into how much you're spending on things because it's out of control. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Anna. Nice to see you back in town, by the way. Hadn't seen you in a while. How's your mom?
Darlene Shelley. I also like to see folks who have common sense and who aren't afraid to bring their great ideas before you. I would also love to see more things in Palm Coast and Flagler County to help our youth, our families, to have some wonderful things to do in parks and recreation. We have no lack of park and recreation employees. We saw a small representative of them here this morning. They do a great job. Again, at home, we have to tighten our belts. And if we'd love to have some of these amenities at our own homes, unfortunately, many folks in Palm Coast cannot afford that. There are so many ways to get the funding to do these things without putting the burden on the taxpayers of Palm Coast. There is $4 million a year in bed tax fees that you certainly can try to harness to bring facilities like a skate park to our county and our city, to bring folks here that perhaps our local families can use as well. Now, that's not popular, I know, because I've done the research to see where that $4 million goes every year. And unfortunately, it doesn't help my friends and neighbors who don't own Airbnbs on the ocean, who don't live in a gated community, who don't have unlimited funds to pay to use a pool that used to be a community pool. This is a problem. We're begging you for solutions. We're giving you examples of alternative ways to make things happen in the city, to beautify Palm Coast and Flagler County. Yet you continue down the road of step by step, taking away every single thing that makes it beautiful, whether it's wetlands, whether it's incompatible development, whether it's apartment complexes where we should have doctors' offices, quality retail, places to take our children for entertainment. Maybe a library that's not closed on a Monday. That was shocking. We're asking for common sense. We're asking for alternative solutions to funding these things that don't come out of the pocketbooks of our veterans and our retirees, my friends and neighbors that I've talked to thousands of times, who have to move away because they can't afford to live here. And that's my affordable housing concern. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? This is capital money and impact fees, Ms. Darlene, so it was already committed. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Stephanie Schendel. I live in the L section. About the additional concrete that needs to go down, I understand everybody needs parking, and stormwater concerns and development issues. The natural Florida landscape absorbs anywhere, depending upon what grows there, absorbs anywhere from 50 to 90% of the rainfall that comes down, whereas replacing that with urban infrastructure, concrete, could like directly inverses that relationship to a 90% runoff. So the stormwater situation increasing every time we take away an acre of land that has vegetation on it and replace it with concrete, we're creating an inverse relationship on our sink to prevent flooding around the city of Palm Coast. And some of us are privileged and grateful to live in areas of Palm Coast that are not considered at this point a flood zone. So we don't have the same insurance concerns as people who already are living in areas that are prone to flooding. My fear is replacing the vegetative areas with urban areas is going to add so much more stress on those stormwater systems that are already delicate for us in the city. Another thing about the cost effectiveness of the skate park, I think it's great. I'm a mother of 5 to keep, trying to find things, productive, healthy things for our young people to do. Keeps Sheriff Stolley's work at a minimum and gives our kids healthy spaces to play in. I would encourage the city commission to look at what they call pump tracks in an cost-effective and more nature-friendly way to hit that skate park goal, because they're actually a really great alternative. Pump tracks, they're a nature-based skate park alternative that uses a smaller area of land, and it has kind of like a hilly region for kids to navigate up and down those parks. So there are alternatives out there. I think this is a intelligent and youthful enough city council that we can find some maybe more economical and environmentally savvy ways of producing a positive end result. So just be open to looking beyond what might be there in your face value. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any follow-ups from the council?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about or address some of the funding. I think you mentioned some of it, that these were impacting capital improvement funds that we're specifically talking about here, but even the suggestion in terms of TDT. So the state regulates the use of TDT funds, and so one penny has to go to advertising, and another penny has to go to operations, and another, and on and on. So facilities to improve tourism, essentially, so recreational facilities, they receive, I think, just one of those pennies, right? And that has to be broken up. So if we're talking about $4 to $5 million, that's $1 million total that can be used for it by state law, and then that's,
some of it has to go to beach renourishment.
and then that's competing with the beach and then other cities within the county as well, because it's not a Palm Coast tax, so to speak. So ultimately, what I'm getting at is that there's a limited amount of funds, maybe $750,000 a year or something like that. And my understanding is that we just received, I forget the amount. Vice Mayor, you might be able to help me out since you're on that.
You're talking about for the lights?
For the lights,
About
yes.
450,000.
So we just received about $450,000 for lights at Indian Trail Sports Complex from
And the seed money for the southern.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one a few years back,
700,
right?
over 700,000.
Yeah, so we have tapped into that money, and it's Flagler County is, in terms of tourism, is a smaller county in the state. We don't generate nearly enough, or not enough, but much TDT in comparison to others because the frontages aren't developed, with high-story hotels across the beach and all those things like the other counties around us. But that limits us. Orange County, I think, generates about $30 million a month in TDT, and we generate like 4.5 in a year. So, so it's different in terms of scale. But we do utilize that, and we get money from them every year for facilities.
Anything else from the council? Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so we tabled it. We're going to do a workshop. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Mr. Hurst. And thank you, Matt. We're going to move on to item I, public comments. Our last round of public comments for today's meeting. You're a guest here, Anna.
Anna Gibson, P section. So as I told you, I have now been involved in local politics in 2 different states, and I have learned a lot. And one of the things that has been weighing on my heart that I never really spoke to at the time was the ethical complaints that came out against Mike Norris. Now, I don't think that you were wrong to investigate him. However, what is wrong is what I have seen across multiple boards, across multiple states, is when an ethical complaint doesn't actually come from the public, when it comes from another board member, it is usually in an effort to deter and distract from some sort of thing that someone is trying to accomplish. So the day Mayor Norris was accused of potentially creating a toxic work environment, he was also advocating for a financial audit, which you need. Secondly, I want to talk about the fact that you can investigate our mayor for making a comment about someone's nail polish who works here, but you refuse to actually investigate the citizens that you are actually harming and creating real financial harm and loss to, like, I believe, Jeremy Davis, who lived on Parati, who has come here several times talking about how he has experienced financial harm because you have failed to properly inspect properties. And I believe your city attorney was wrapped up in that mess, and your former city manager was wrapped up in that mess. So I think it's great that you want to investigate an ethical complaint from the mayor over nail polish, but let's be honest, it's absolutely ridiculous that you fail to take accountability for causing real citizens harm and you ignore real citizens' ethical complaints. And that is what I've seen consistently from governments. They fail to take accountability. They don't want to be transparent. They hide their indiscretions because they know that they are financially liable. And these tactics that you guys use on the board to file ethical complaints against each other is really just in an effort to actually distract someone who wants to do the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else for public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I want to briefly respond to the city manager's comments. The city manager stated that many of my questions occurred before his employment and that he could not provide those answers. I understand that. But the approvals, records, engineering reviews, permits, inspections, and certificates of occupancy belong to the city, not to any individual employee. If the current city manager cannot answer those questions because they predate his employment, then who can? That is not a rhetorical question. Who is responsible for explaining how those decisions were made? Who is responsible for identifying the standards that were applied? Who is responsible for maintaining the records that support those decisions? And who is responsible for ensuring the public can verify them? The city manager also stated that discussions occurred with staff, council, and legal counsel, and that those discussions reached an impasse. That may explain why negotiations ended. It does not explain how the original decisions were reached. My concern has never been about personalities. My concern is accountability and transparency in government decision-making. Residents should not be told that answers no longer exist simply because the people involved have changed positions, retired, or moved on. The decision remain, the records remain, the impacts remain. So my question remains, who speaks for those decisions and where can the public find the documentation supporting them? And my case is not closed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for final public comment? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Shelley.
Darlene Shelley, K-Section. First question, I'd like to get an answer, if I could please, on another consent agenda that came before the County Commission yesterday in regards to consideration of property owner letter of authorization to abandon and terminate the Old Brick Road, Old Brick Township DRI development and related agreements. I would like to know if that has anything to do with what Ms. Pontieri said made you sick to your stomach, or is this a completely different issue? If it's different, that's fine. If it's the same, I believe we need to look into that a little further. The second thing is near and dear to my heart because it, again, has so much potential to harm the residents of Palm Coast, to harm our quality of life, to infringe upon our constitutional rights, to violate comprehensive plan and the land and development language that protects our homes from incompatibility and threats to our safety, health, and welfare. And I've been saying these words since 2019 before this commission, the county commission, the commission before this, and it deserves to be heard and recognized. The other consent agenda from the county with the fuel farm, and again, that was their terminology. You cannot say, you cannot compare.
Mr. Mayor, she already brought this up already. Now she has two
addressing
bites
Ms.
at the apple.
Pontieri's comment about racetrack and Wawa, because
It's supposed to be one time. You only get one time at the microphone. It's not supposed to be twice.
You're on the same subject, Ms. Darlene. Don't talk about the same subject. You have to have a new subject.
Okay.
We can talk about that offline.
No, unfortunately, we can't, because my friends and neighbors and parents in Palm Coast and Bunnell and folks who live in densely populated apartment complexes need to hear this information. And I've been blocked from Nextdoor and silenced, ridiculed and attacked online. And this needs to be said because it's not coming from me, it's coming from the EPA. You cannot put a fuel farm in the center of Palm Coast ethically, because it's not conflatable to Wawa and racetrack, because we're talking about avgas, LL avgas fuel, which is low lead, Jet A fuel, which is not gasoline. It is not the same. It needs to be addressed.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to Dust. Any closing on those comments? Anybody got anything?
No, sir.
All right, I just want to clear up a bit of untruths. First of all, Ms. Shelley, that is not something that is before this board. County, that's their land. We don't have control over that. But second, I would like to think that this board has moved on from things that occurred, a year and a half ago. But, I think it's also an unfair characterization to say that ethics complaints were filed over toenail polish, and to insinuate that things were done in order to deflect or detract from things that we're trying to hide. I won't speak for anybody else, but you can take my words at face value. There is no alternative motive in filing anything. It's my firm belief that a charter provision was violated and that other transgressions occurred that warranted action. And there's no need to, I don't think, bring all of that up again. And I know I've moved past it. I hope everybody else has as well. Apparently some people haven't. But I do think it's unfair to mischaracterize why a complaint was filed and the motives behind it. And I think it's very important that we address things like this as the board, because statements that just came from that podium that have bits and pieces of what occurred, but not the full and whole truth, not even close to it actually, is unhealthy for a community. And Ms. Shelley, you laughing from the galley in a very disrespectful way is also unhealthy for the community as well. So that's all I have to say in response to public comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Norris.
Thank you. Anybody else from the council? Anything? Nothing? Okay. We'll move on to item J, discussions not on the agenda, City Council. Anybody got anything good for us?
No, I've got two things, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, just, I want everybody to please do their best to get out the Flagler Fort. It was a great event last year. Many of us read parts of the Declaration of Independence, and the fireworks were awesome. It was also just a real memorable 4th of July for our city. Second, I'd like to go ahead, and I know the Vice Mayor has asked the Mayor on multiple occasions on an update on the FDLE investigation report reference a quid pro quo. It's now public record, and I'd like to, Ms. Cook, I'd like to add the investigation report, which found no criminal activity, into our permanent record. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Ms. Sullivan, anything?
I have a few things, sorry, before city manager and city attorney. So first, I want to thank everybody for coming out to karaoke for a cause. It was a lot of fun, and we raised a lot of money for Family Life Center, so I'm really appreciative for the support, both from a lot of our local businesses who donated gift cards, gift baskets, stuff for our raffle. Mr. Davis, actually, his company, ProTint, donated to us, so I appreciate that. All the people who came out, everybody who sang, it was a lot of fun, and it was just a really kind of feel-good event for the community, so I'm really appreciative of that.
What did you sing?
We sang Friends in Low Places. That was a group number, myself and Commissioner Richardson and Commissioner Pennington, and I sang Grundy County Auction by myself. So a little bit of 90s country rap.
What was it?
Grundy County Auction. Yeah, kicking it back old school. It was a lot of fun. Now, a lot of people sang, a lot of people from the community that I never thought would sing actually got up and sang. So thank you for everybody's support. Thank you, Councilman Gambaro, for bringing up the 4th. I forgot, this is our last meeting prior to the 4th of July. So really looking forward to seeing the community out at that event. It's always a really nice event. I want to make two what I think are very important statements. The one is, we're getting into, qualifying is over. We officially have our candidates. Best of luck to everybody running. It is not fun. It's very difficult. So I commend anybody and everybody who has put their name in the hat, whether I agree or disagree with you, your stance on issues. I do commend folks who are willing to put their name out there and to do it. And I commend your families for supporting you because it's difficult. As we get into kind of the hot and heavy 2 months leading up to the primary, I encourage this council to remain respectful, both on this dais and off of it. I have seen some things floating around social media. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, and you have free speech. But I think, we up here have a higher standard that we have to conduct ourselves with. And I just hope that this council will adhere to that higher standard, particularly as we get closer to the elections. The last thing, Mayor, at the last meeting, you presented or you asked council if we would give consensus to entertain what you called an austerity budget. At the time of asking, none of us had seen the austerity budget, and I think all of us were kind of, and I won't speak for anybody else, but the feeling that I got from everybody was that we were all in agreement to engage in what I consider to be fiscally responsible concepts in order to address what is not only a rough budget year because of the downturn in property values and the slowing of construction, but also in anticipation of what may come out of Tallahassee. You got consensus from this council to entertain kind of a set of principles to go by. And I don't know if it was later that day or the day after, I think it was the day after, I actually received a copy of the austerity budget, and I think it was also published in its full by Flagler Live.
Let me stop for a second, Vice Mayor. That was just me and the city manager and the attorney were having a discussion, and I had been doing some research, and I sent them that as a shell document so we could try to mold it for our city, because we had this discussion yesterday too. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. And I was going through and I said, oh, do you want to do up a draft resolution? And that's all I did. And I sent that to Mark and said, we need to pare it down. And I actually said that, AI doesn't know a lot of things about our community or our systems of government. So it was just giving us something to go by. All those things on there, really, we're already doing it. It's just putting it into guidance from the council, what we want to look for. None of those things, really, it's sad that Pierre would publish an email from the mayor to the city manager and the attorney. We have sunshine laws and stuff. But when we're talking and just kicking back ideas and stuff, it's just like fear-mongering. And that's not what the intent of any of that is. I have no problem with the state. If they want to take away that ad valorem and that's what the residents want, that's what the residents want. But I do have to plan, and I'm not a person that sits back on my butt and doesn't look forward and try to lean forward and get ahead of things. So really, Pierre took that whole thing out of context, and he's, out in left field, so to speak.
Well, and I can appreciate you having that opinion, but when you say something from the dais and then you forward a proposed or a shell, and I did see that you referenced it as a shell, austerity budget to our attorney that contains things in it that are in some way, shape, or form possibly going to come before the council, you've put out into the public ideas and concepts that I believe are ill-conceived or poorly written and, quite frankly, are legally impossible to implement.
I didn't put them out, Vice Mayor.
You did, though. You forwarded
an email.
I understand that, Mayor, but that's my point. You have to think about the things that you do on this dais, what you say and what you send, and I think we've all been on the receiving end of very in-depth public records requests. My point and what I wanted to bring up is not to get into a back and forth about what your intent was when you sent that, or that's not my point. My point is twofold. One, a lot of the things, and you've already said it, that are in this austerity budget are already being done by the city of Palm Coast. So when you put things out like this, that the residents aren't aware of what is already taking place, it makes the city look bad. It makes us look like we're not already engaging in a lot of things that could save us money. For instance, I won't say you, but the austerity budget shell called for the merging of financing and procurement. Well, we already have procurement merged with finance.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Mayor, please let me finish. Please let me finish. I let you talk when I wasn't done. Okay? It recommends things like 4-day work weeks when these become into 10-hour work days rather than 5 8-hour work days. It's still 40 hours a week. My point is that if we are going to address our budget and make some difficult decisions, it can't be based on AI. It can't be based on general concepts that we all in theory agree with, but in reality are very hard to implement. Passing a balanced budget and picking the budget apart to find cost savings takes a lot of work. It takes reading documents. It takes rolling your sleeves up and spending the time to dig into the actual finances of the city. It takes an understanding of the fact that sewer, utilities, waste, all of those have their own dedicated funds. Therefore, an austerity budget from AI that says we should prioritize things in this order, when none of those things even come out of the same budget, is not helpful. And it puts out into the public an idea of things that can be done that are impossible to implement. They're not legally possible to even talk about. So my point, Mayor, is that as we move forward, we need to make sure that we are not making cuts that are, again, in theory, yeah, sure, we'll cut certain things. We did a proclamation about Parks and Rec today. Parks and Rec comes out of general fund. So those are the types of things that we're going to have to look closely at. And when you say, well, we're going to pass an austerity budget that says we have to prioritize things, we shall prioritize things in this certain way. Well, our community puts a very high value on Parks and Rec. So what are we going to do to ensure that quality of life in the Parks and Rec department that our community values is preserved? The austerity budget recommends cutting all arts programs and festivals. Well, of course it would, because AI is not a person. AI is certainly not a resident of the city of Palm Coast, and AI can't recognize the importance of some of the events that we fund every year. You know, Grok doesn't understand how important the 511 5K is to our community. Claude can't possibly understand how important things like the Josh Cruz writing competition are. You know, a chat bot has no idea how much value we place on things like Touch-a-Truck. Those are all things that an austerity budget says, yeah, just cut it, no big deal. You know, and I know maybe you didn't read it and take out the things that we're already doing, but I think it's important for the residents to understand that the austerity budget calls for fixing roads using a worst first plus preservation policy, where we, quote, shift back to crack sealing and resurfacing versus full rebuilds. Well, Mayor, we've already been doing that. 3.5 years ago, I recommended we start doing that. We've been setting $1 million aside every year to do just that. And you know what? It didn't take IA to tell us we needed to do that. So again, I think it's really important that we make sure we are properly communicating things that we are already doing in our community that are saving the taxpayers money, and rolling up our sleeves and taking a look at what we can do in reality to save more money, to come up with better efficiencies, and to tighten our budget. The last thing I'll say, Mayor, is, you know, when we are communicating what we are doing with what we are going to do with the budget, we need to be very clear about certain things that we can do with certain funding sources, and the importance of, if we are going to trim and cut and do some of the things that I know all of us want to do, that we are looking very hard at the general fund budget and how other funding mechanisms can free up general fund monies. Because if Tallahassee does make a change and the amount of tax dollars that we're going to get are reduced, that comes only from the general fund. So we have to focus very carefully on how we are going to, you know, general fund monies are largely fungible. So how are we going to make up for those dollars in the general fund? That should be the focus. And I hope that council is willing to do the hard work to come up with realistic changes to our budget that can impact our community in a positive way.
You done? Anything else for the council? Mr. Attorney Man?
Yes. Since we're going to be celebrating the 250th anniversary of July 4th, we have two opportunities to celebrate that. We have USA playing Turkey on July 25th, and USA playing Australia on June 19th. So won't see you till then, but hope you all have a great July 4th, and we celebrate America in true fashion. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thanks again for the work that we did yesterday during our one-on-ones as we're discussing the city's business. To get prepped for this meeting as well, I'd like to remind you on Monday, for those of you that haven't already got to me what your expected service levels are for the upcoming year. That's the second half of what your staff needs. So we've got your SAPs. They just went through. and we're waiting to hear those expected service levels for the upcoming budget year, and we'll bring forth you a balanced budget for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Any alibis?
Motion to adjourn.